FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The New York Knicks have acquired Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets for a boatload of picks and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Go New York, go New York, go!
F them picks!
All in, all in, all in.
Tonight, round one of the NBA draft. This year, for the first time, they've split it. We'll see if it works.
It's a complete crap.
Mike Danger.
And I'm done with the seventh inning stretch. Give us a seventh inning moment of zen. I think my take offended Gene so much that he left the studio.
Gene Battaglia.
You call me the baseball writer. Did your father never take you to a baseball game?
Jeff Skinner!
We are proud to select
Chuck Muncy.
Minnesota 2024 National Cup champs. Well, because the Mets are so damn good.
The Mets win! Put it in the books!
The Mets have absolutely teed off on Garrett Cole.
Grimace.
Who knew that college baseball was as spicy as it was?
Shocking soccer news. Alex Morgan has been left off the squad that will be playing in the Paris Olympics.
Charlie, good morning.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
And a very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into Rochester's only local sports talk show. You found the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're tuning in at 95.7 FM, AM 950. We sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, don't forget we got the video stream up as well. You can watch the Sports Bar on YouTube at The Fan Rochester and also on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
If you're tuning in expecting us to be a pregame show for the NBA draft, as we are watching right now on ESPN, where they actually have the countdown clock. We're under 5 hours. This would not be the show here. I can't recall a year where I just do not care. Is it because the guys at the top we never even seen play, basically?
I couldn't even tell you who's going number one. Who's going number one?
It's either the guy from France that's a forward or the guy that's from France that's a center.
Congratulations, LeBron. You did it again. All we're talking about on the day of the draft is where your kid is going to end up. That's it.
They're going to spend their first-round pick. Like, I can understand the Lakers getting out of the first round and then maybe at the end of the second, perhaps. No, they'll spend their first-round pick tonight because tonight, prime time, this is when you want it. LeBron will be out there. It'll be a big moment.
Now, I just confessed as a sports talk show host that I don't know who's going number one overall. Do we even know that if the number one overall pick will be able to contribute immediately to the team that selects him to the or will it be a project, a prospect, somebody that's going to have to spend some time in the G League? What are we talking about?
Right. I have no idea. I'll put you on the spot here. Do you even know who has the number one overall pick tonight?
It's Atlanta, right?
It's Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is Atlanta, followed by, let's see if I can do this, Washington, Houston, San Antonio, and Detroit.
I mean, at least last year you knew, when Victor Wembanyama gets selected, he's kind of special. There's something about him. He's going to be impactful. And by all accounts, it felt like he had a pretty good rookie year in San Antonio. Team was terrible, but he was pretty good.
You can see, once he fills out a little bit and they get some talent around him, that'll be a nice addition to this league.
Yeah, no. Instead, all we're left really talking about and wondering is who is anybody other than the Lakers interested in Bronny? Is anybody, or is this just a foregone conclusion that the Lakers will select him? And
is there any other team that would dare the sign and trade? End of the first round. I really want to screw the Lakers over.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's really for me, that'd be the most fascinating storyline from tonight's draft for the NBA. And I also think that, what happened today with the Knicks is probably more fascinating than anything that we'll see tonight at the draft.
Yeah, to get Bridges? Forgive me it might have been Jimmy Patsos when we were talking about how the Knicks wrapped up and we were looking ahead to next year and they had this room. What big thing could they do? No, don't go get a Paul George. Don't get a Kevin Durant. Get somebody who would fit. I didn't even know Mikal Bridges would be on the table because, you don't see the Yankees and Nets making deals or the Jets and Giants, but Brooklyn, here you go.
It's a lot of picks. It's a lot of picks, Gino.
Yeah. Are you kidding? Brooklyn, between now and 2031, they have 16 first-rounders.
It's a lot of picks.
That's process times on steroids. There.
Oh, here's something that I notice every time something like this happens. Can we retire a phrase, an old tired cliche that gets thrown around a lot when deals like this happen? The phrase is that the Knicks now are showing everybody that they are all in. What do you mean?
They weren't before.
They were just half-assing it before. Now they're all in. They weren't all in before. Got it. Okay. Every time I see it now, it's like big if true. Whenever somebody says big if true, okay. What are we talking about? These little sports cliches that you hear from time to time, because it doesn't mean anything. It's almost as if the Knicks are telling the insider, make sure everybody knows we're all in. This move we're all in on this move. The team is all okay. If you're all in, then I guess OG Anunoby is next, right? You're going to sign him.
Yeah. What happens if he decides?
If you don't do that, then I guess you're not all in. But maybe if you do that, okay, you're all in. Go get that guy, and round this out. And all of that said, I still don't know if when you compare him to the Celtics, I don't know that they're there yet. You're closer, but I don't know that you're there yet. But don't worry, Knicks fans. With this move, according to all of the NBA insiders that are reporting it, the Knicks are all in. Now, we can retire that tired cliche. Wow, they're all in. No, they weren't before, but now they are. Okay, good. Got it. You can join us here on The Fan. 866-4FAN is our phone number, 585-866-4326.
Yeah, before that, so coming up on the show today, we will have Lance Isowski, Buffalo News, 4 o'clock hour. We will also be talking to PJ Glasser back in his normal Wednesday. Give you some winners here in baseball and also golf. Our buddy, I forgot he's a Nets fan, Pete calling in. Poster Pete.
Hey, Pete, how are you, bud?
I just, the Nets do these terrible initial deals, and then their reaction is, let's get 4 draft picks. So going back to Billy King, you got the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce that basically gave them only 1 championship. And then with the whole Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving deal, we trade all these draft picks away. Why don't we just cut our losses? This was a good deal. I get it that you don't want to give Knicks fans, but they gave us 4 draft picks. And, I don't hate the Knicks, kind of like the Yankees don't hate the Mets, but I don't really think that deal puts the Knicks over the hump. And at the end of the day with the Nets, it's stop going after superstars. It's just draft players, get the talent. And as the one Nets fan in the city of Rochester, that's my take.
I think there's a lot of Nets fans that are holdovers from when KD was with the Nets. When KD went to the Nets, I think a lot of people all of a sudden became Nets fans, or at least younger people.
I know of one other, Dave Altman up in Webster, and that's going back to the Drazen Petrovic, and that was a fun team way back when. But the Nets are one of those cursed franchises, Danger. They just cannot. I mean, Kid got him to a final one time, but
well, maybe
so far on the right.
There is, rather than going after the stars, doubtful that they'll hold on to all of those first-round draft picks, right? That's a lot of first-round capital. But you maybe hit on a couple of those guys and get some complementary pieces to round out that roster.
Look, it worked for Oklahoma City.
Sure did.
Okay, this didn't work, and Durant's gone, and before you know it, Harden's got. All right, it took half a decade, but now they're a fun young team. I get it from the Brooklyn standpoint. They weren't going to go anywhere with Bridges on the team, just where they sent him to. At least Boston, New York. That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's the free agency, the trades, that's way more interesting than who gets selected tonight.
I agree. And the other element of this that we haven't really talked about, the idea that he has played basically with everybody, the Villanova has reunited at Madison Square Garden. I mean, DiVincenzo now, Brunson, Hart, Bridges, now all. I mean, we get Jay Wright out of retirement?
Yeah, right. That's the joke. It's I think part of this too, and it's funny. You have that team kind of graduating, and the rest of this draft we're not familiar because it's the one and done. It's the portal. It's everything else. It's how. college basketball has just been chipped away at for various reasons, and it shows up in an event like tonight where, hey, your top two players, you've never watched them before, but get excited about this player from France.
It is crazy how we've got the NBA draft starting tonight, and no hesitation, you get right to the NHL draft on Friday night. And I'm excited to talk to Lance later this afternoon, next hour, from the Buffalo News to talk a little bit. He's there in Vegas to talk a little bit about what the Sabres might be looking at doing with number 11 overall.
You know what's funny? I think it mirrors exactly what is kind of happening in the NBA. Like, you're a Sabre fan. Do you really care who they select at 11? Do you have it? No. You're probably anticipating a trade. And Lance writes about that today. Like, if you're going to make a trade, because, well, the Sabres in the market here for a top 6 forward, and, well, every team is. But how do you do that? You're going to have to trade, not first-round picks, trade some talent. And Lance writes, hey, you've got this talent down in Rochester. Could any of it actually get moved? Could you see Cooley getting moved? I mean, it's interesting. We'll ask Lance that coming up, because I'm of the opinion that there will be trades, because Lindy Ruff is coming in, and Lindy Ruff, I'm sure, isn't like, you know what? All 30 of these guys, I like them all. We're going to get – no. He probably said, you know, this guy, if you can move him, I'd like to bring in this guy. And we're already starting to see that. It's been reported before. Now it's being reported again that the Sabres are indeed going to buy out the contract of Jeff Skinner.
This was Kevin Adams, what was this, last week, talking about Jeff Skinner.
You know, I'll leave specifics out, but I think it's safe to say that I have a lot of respect for Jeff. I mean, he's clearly an elite offensive player in this league. He's done it a long time. He's scored a lot of goals in this league, and I have a lot of respect for Newport Sports, who represents him.
That told you everything you needed. Yeah. Why are you talking to Newport Sports here?
Yeah, and he's a very good offensive player in this league. You know that Lindy's going to want guys that play both ends of the ice, and Skinner, for as good as he's been offensively for the period of time that he was here, probably not going to fly. So
yeah, I remember it was an August day where the Sabres made the trade. Like, woohoo! Wow, Carolina gave up Skinner. Let's go! Like, ha 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 ha. Well, we give up Cliff Prue and a couple draft picks. Well, turns out Carolina kind of knew all along. And sure, when you're playing up on a line with Jack Eichel, that one line was a lot of fun for a few years, but it never won you any games.
Yeah. So we'll get Lance on with us later this afternoon. Preview the first round of the NHL draft Friday night. Talk about some of these moves that could happen with the Buffalo Sabres. When I want to say the buyout window starts tomorrow, I think it opens up.
Yeah, correct.
So we'll start to see some movement in the NHL starting tomorrow. And as far as PJ goes, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network, he'll be stopping by here in about 10 minutes or so. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Got to get his opinion on the Yankees and Mets there. Like, now the Mets nearly blew it last night, but now you have Luis Heel. I look at the Yankee lineup like 6 down. Like, you have guys that are not hitting. It's a top-heavy lineup, and when you take a couple pieces out, all of a sudden this is starting to show up.
Were you nervous last night when Judge hit the dong? Did you think to yourself, oh boy, here we go? I mean, you had to a little bit, right? Just a little bit, because the Mets were in control pretty much the entire game. You have that inning, Judge goes yard, clears the bases, and I'm watching along, and I'm like, ooh, But yeah, the Mets get the win. The Mets they remain hot right now, man. The Mets, you can say that the Mets aren't good. I would listen to that. I would listen to a lot of people who would say, yeah, the Mets aren't really.
But this is the byproduct of baseball now.
They're hot.
They're hot, and it doesn't matter. Like, and the Yankees could get hot later in the year. But the fact that the Yankees have lost now 3 straight series, and now you're in the Subway Series, this is supposed to be the breather for the Yankees.
Yeah, Heel is due for some regression. He didn't look great his last time out. Got to be a little bit concerned about the performance of Cole last night. Cole just didn't have it, despite what his teammates were saying after the game. He just didn't have it, and he got banged up in that game last night against the Mets. So rough outing for the Yankees ace, and the Subway Series continues tonight at Citi Field.
Yeah, there was a 9-7 loss there, and the Yankees, look, they're still 2 games up on Baltimore. But now, team with the best record in the American League, it's actually Cleveland.
Nobody's talking about Cleveland.
No, like the 26th ranked payroll in Major League Baseball, and yet there's Cleveland, and that is going to be the problem for the Yankees is that, hey, it's going to be a short series, and if you end up with somebody like Cleveland, or dare I say a hot Houston or a Texas Ranger team or whoever decides to get hot out west.
You said a hot Houston team. Are you starting to buy in on Houston making a little bit of a surge here?
No, one of them. One of those teams will.
Yeah,
the Rangers have been lollygagging, but now they get Scherzer back. He looked good.
Yeah, he did look good in his first outing back, yeah. So we'll get PJ's takes on tonight's slate and also, talk a little PGA golf. Where are they this weekend? Where's the tournament this weekend? Do we know? I mean, I just want to talk to PJ just about, is Scotty Scheffler the safest bet in all of sport right now? You just go ahead and bet Scheffler to the moon anytime he's on the course? PJ loves him some golf, so we'll get with PJ here, the host of Send It In.
It's Detroit. Rocket Mortgage Classic.
Okay, very good. I don't even know if Scheffler's playing this weekend, but we'll talk to PJ about that. We'll get his take on tonight's NBA draft. We'll spend some time here with PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network. Again, 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool and join us, 585-866-4FAN. Another thing that I want to bring up later on this afternoon, Gino, when we share and dish out some takes, I've been thinking a little bit in this downtime in the NFL, where there's not a lot happening about the Buffalo Bills and what could possibly go wrong. I know I should probably be thinking highly and thinking, optimistically about what this season could look like. I haven't been there. I'm not really there. So instead I'm thinking about, all right, who will the fall guy be? Who's the person that we as fans are going to or should hold accountable if things don't go well? We know who will get the praise if things do go well, but what about if things don't go well?
Should be McDermott, right? Is that where we're going? Like McDermott, like we pointed out, how many years does a coach get and you don't reach the Super Bowl? Like Marvin Lewis being the gold standard, but now we are in Jack Del Rio territory. But McDermott has this amazing ability to just kind of reinvent himself, get rid of a coordinator, make a change here.
Yeah, well, there's one person that they're not going to move on from, obviously, and when you find your franchise quarterback, it becomes very easy to fall head over heels. And I think right now another team in the AFC East is grappling with whether or not they have their franchise quarterback, and that's Miami. What does Tua do here over the course of the start of training camp or the next few weeks? It feels as if they're kind of far apart in terms of a long-term deal, and the Miami hasn't really given him exactly what he might be looking for in terms of a market fair deal. Is Tua the guy that's going to hit that $55 to $60 million a year mark for Miami, or does Miami view him as too much of a liability given his injury history and his limitations as a quarterback?
Yeah, it's interesting because the guys in his class, Trevor Lawrence, that they've gotten taken care of. Like that's kind of where we are at, and the injury concern. I look at Tua is not a guy that will rock the boat. Meaning, what would Tula's leverage be if he wants to get the long-term deal? Well, he could take the Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins route and just ball out, and you're going to pay. And that might be the likely scenario. The other scenario is, and you can't fault him if you're a Dolphin fan, you know what? Till we get this actually sorted out, I'm not reporting to training camp. Oh, yeah, you're going to find me by the letter CBA. Great, go ahead.
It's the only leverage he has if he wants that deal done now. If he wants it done now, I mean, it feels like a move that would be un-Tua-like. I mean, it doesn't feel like Tua has this kind of like mean streak but when you're a player in the NFL, you got to get it while you can. And if that's the only leverage he has, which I believe it is, well, hold out. What are they going to do? They don't have a backup plan. He's it.
No. And Stephen Ross is the owner, right? He was the owner 4 years ago. He was the owner 3 years ago when they had a deal in place to trade for Deshaun Watson, but because of legal troubles, they couldn't get it signed off by Rusty Hardin, whoever the attorney was. Deshaun Watson. Wait a second. Like, that's right. Stephen Ross was on his yacht with Tom Brady while Brady was still a quarterback, and he lost a first-round pick. They tried to move off of Tua before. This is nothing new, Danger. The fact they aren't giving him the money, it shouldn't be a surprise. They've been trying to move off of this guy for a while. They don't believe. You can say whatever you want about Josh Allen, but the Bills are fully in. And you should be fully in on a quarterback. And if you're not, then figure out who your next quarterback is going to be, because if Tua uses that leverage. Who was the last quarterback, by the way? Somebody help me out. Have we had a quarterback that is actually held out?
It's funny how the holdout has kind of morphed into this this being that doesn't look the way we're accustomed to seeing it look. I would argue that the last quarterback to hold out was actually Lamar. Even though Lamar didn't hold out, you remember the end of the season when he didn't have his long-term deal and he was injured. And he probably could have come back, but he didn't come back. He didn't rush back onto the field as the team made it into the postseason. And you had Hundley starting these games for the Ravens and not Lamar. And Lamar was cleared to play, but he couldn't get out there. They didn't get him out there. It's kind of morphed into this mutant where the traditional holdout isn't the way it looks anymore. So if you're Tua, this would be like a rare thing where you see a quarterback actually holding out at training camp. We haven't seen that in some time. You're right. It's quite the distraction.
Yeah, the only thing I could come up with the Googles was, I barely remember this guy, Kelly Stouffer held out with the Seahawks in 1987. Oh, who cares? Like, it doesn't get to this point with the quarterback.
Oh, who cares?
Like, you could point to how many other, like Darrelle Revis. That was interesting. Made for some great television, too, on Hard Knocks. You've had other guys recently. Le'Veon Bell. I'm sure we'll have others. Maybe one of the San Francisco receivers. Who knows who we'll have. But when it comes to the quarterback, you don't get a holdout. And I would say this. I think, like, you would get, the support would be on Tua's side. I don't think there's any doubt. I think Dolphin fans would be like, yeah, you know what? You've earned it. Go pay the guy. What are we waiting for?
Right. And they're not going to do it. And they haven't done it, and they won't do it. We'll keep tabs on that here through the course of the offseason as we get closer to training camp. Next on the show, PJ Glasser. He is the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network. We'll get some winners on the diamond. We'll talk some NBA draft and some PGA as well. PJ next on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
Is the NBA draft tonight? First time we're going to have it over 2 nights. The first overall pick belonging to the Atlanta Hawks. Also in baseball tonight, the Subway Series continuing. The Mets taking Game 1. Here's Mark Vientos.
We've been swinging the bat pretty good. I feel like we're riding the wave. We're sticking to our plan, our approach. We talk about it before games, and feel like we keep doing this, we'll be dangerous.
On the Major League scoreboard, Seattle defeating Tampa Bay 5-2. Everything else is in progress. In the ninth, it's Pittsburgh over Cincinnati 6-1. Also in the ninth, same score, Philadelphia leading in Detroit. Bottom of 3, Atlanta leading in St. Louis. It's the first of 2. Braves 4 and Cardinals 1. Houston up 2-0 on Colorado. And the Marlins with an early lead on Kansas City 1-0. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Raise the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, joined now by the host of Send It In, an Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all of the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. PJ, lots of action happening right now in progress on the Major League Diamond. We want to start there with you and talk about any action that you might like happening now that we might be able to bet live, or anything that might be piquing your interest for tonight's action in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, guys, of the sides going on currently, there was really nothing that stood out to me, side or total. There were a couple props that I liked today. There were 2 hitters in the Braves lineup going up against Kyle Gibson, who's pitching for St. Louis today, that had great history. Matt Olson was 10 for 24 against Gibson in his career, and Ramon Laureano was 10 for 20 in his career. And he was minus 150 to get a hit today. So I know they're up 4-1. I haven't gotten a chance to look at the box score yet, but if you can get some live props on Olson and Laureano while Gibson's still in the game, those were 2 guys that historically have done really well off of Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, PJ, you are following certainly the American League East as the Orioles winning that series over the Yankees. Yankees and Mets tonight, Subway Series. And I just get your thoughts here on the Yankees. Is this just, hey, it's a long season, you're going to have some dips here, or is there real cause for concern? Because I'm just looking at the numbers in the lineup last night. Torres batting cleanup, 215. Verdugo at 244. J.D. Davis, he's been waived twice. T.J. LeMahieu, 174, 190, 250. I mean, it's a top-heavy team. Is there cause for concern with the Yankees?
Yes and no, Gene. I mean, I think certainly that lineup that you were alluding to, hitters like 5 through 9, 6 through 9, there's definitely some concern. I mean, Soto, Judge, 2-3, it doesn't get any better than that. And they have some guys. Stanton's had a great year. He's obviously now on the DL a little bit, but their pitching rotation has been so strong. And Luis Gil, who's going for them tonight, I mean, he's in the AL Cy Young conversation. And I know Garrett Cole got roughed up last night, but he's the reigning AL Cy Young winner. He's going to be fine. So it is a long season, and the Yankees are an older team, and they have guys on their roster, especially everyday players that do have injury history. So they know it's coming. They know they're going to have stretches like this, but their starting pitching has been so good, and now with Cole coming back, and as long as at least Judge and Soto can stay relatively healthy, and those 2 guys are in their lineup every day, I think the Yankees will be fine. They're certainly going to make the playoffs. Whether they win the division or not is going to be interesting, and certainly whether or not they get back to a World Series, which they haven't done since 2009, will remain to be seen. The trade deadline is going to be so important to a bunch of teams this year. But I know every time the Yankees lose, and they lose badly, their fans go ballistic, and they think worst-case scenario. They're going to be fine, but certainly, Gene, that lineup, they need to make some moves at the deadline to round out the bottom of their order a little bit.
Feels like somewhat quietly with a low payroll, the Guardians have the best record in the American League, and they're in Baltimore taking on your Orioles tonight. Talk a little bit about what the Guardians have done here this season to get to where they are, and talk a little bit about this series here, a matchup with Baltimore, PJ.
Yeah, guys, I was at the game last night, and Cleveland's an impressive team. They kind of remind me of the Yankees in terms of, like, the top half of their order is really guys that, their numbers jump out at you, and then the bottom of their order, it's a lot of guys that hit like 208, 175, but they just play winning baseball, And I've been so impressed because Terry Francona, it felt like when he was there for all those years in Cleveland, was kind of getting the most out of that roster. And then Stephen Vogt takes over, no managerial experience, and they have just taken off. And they have the best record right now in the American League. They've come into Baltimore. Yesterday they win a game 10-8. The night before they win 3-2. So that's just what's impressive about the Guardians. They can beat you so many different ways. Jose Ramirez, year after year, has to be one of the most underrated players in baseball. He's a switch-hitting third baseman that hits for average, hits for power. All he does is produce year after year. Stephen Kwan, guys, is batting like 385. His OPS is over 1,000. So they just have dudes that fly under the radar, as you guys mentioned, and certainly the Yankees getting all the headlines and everybody falling in love with the Orioles because of all their young talent. But the Guardians are for real. That back end of their bullpen is legit. And, man, if they can get another starter or two at the deadline to kind of go along with their top-end guys, the Guardians are going to be tough. I know everybody's talking about the Orioles and the Yankees, but, Cleveland, they are definitely for real.
All right, we're talking to PJ Glasser. He's your host of Send It In on the BetQL Network, which you can check out daily. On the National League side of things here, you have Shohei Ohtani, and he homers again for the Dodgers. He leads the National League. Are we, especially with now bets out of the lineup for an undetermined amount of time, are we just kind of handing Ohtani over to the MVP right now here, PJ, or is it just too soon to be talking about MVP futures when it comes to Major League Baseball?
I think it's too soon, Gene. I think voters are really, they're trying to find somebody else to vote for this year, right? Because Ohtani's such a unicorn, and he's so ridiculously good. He's an incredible pitcher. He's an incredible hitter, as we know. And it's like this is the one year that they almost have an excuse not to give it to him, right? Because he's essentially on the same playing field as everyone. And then next year when he recovers from the Tommy John, he starts pitching again, and he keeps doing what he's doing. Then he starts racking up his MVP awards. But unless he just continues to put up insane numbers and he bats 350, hits 50 home runs, whatever it may be, I do think they're going to try and make a case to give it to somebody else. The problem is the guys really putting up all the crazy numbers are in the American League, right? Like Judge, Gunnar Henderson, these guys that are leading their teams in WAR and hitting home runs, and their teams are winning games. So I know Philadelphia is going to win a ton of awards this year. You certainly think one of their guys are going to win NL Cy Young. We'll see if Harper can maybe win NL MVP. It's so tough. It's such a tough market because Mookie was the guy, but now that he's hurt, I know voters are looking for a reason not to vote for Ohtani, but it's like by default with Acuna out for the year, with Betts missing multiple times, like with Harper not putting up as great numbers, maybe it is just going to be Ohtani, but I certainly wouldn't bet it at this point.
PJ, you mentioned the importance of the trade deadline, and as we approach the All-Star break here and the dog days of summer, is there a team that you've got your eye on that might rise up, that might surprise us? I mean, let's face it, last year at this time we didn't have a Rangers-Diamondbacks World Series predicted. So are there teams that could rise up and surprise us here in the second half of the season?
Guys, I cannot wait to see what all these teams in the hunt in the NL wild card decide to do, right? Because they're going to have to face, if you're a general manager, you're going to have to make that decision where you can go into the postseason and saying, you know what, we can make the playoffs. Or are they going to be realistic and say to themselves, we're going to make the playoffs, but we're not going to contend. We're not going to be lured into that fool's gold of making the NL wild card only to get bounced, and then we could have missed an opportunity to potentially, continue our rebuild, right? I'm looking at teams like the Pirates, teams like the Nationals, teams that are kind of young and up and coming. They're 2 and 2.5 games out of the wild card. Like, did they decide to maybe take a swing and try and compete for the playoffs, or do they just continue and build their roster? I think the team that you got to look at, guys, that I just can't quit is the Padres. That's the team because A.J. Preller, their general manager, has obviously shown the knack for taking big swings at the deadline, right? He did that with Soto a couple years ago, went after Dylan Cease this offseason. He got Luis Arraez a couple months into the season. And outside of that big three in the National League, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Dodgers, it feels a lot like who's going to be the Diamondbacks of this year. And I think a lot of teams are approaching it that way. And certainly with the Braves missing their two best players, Acuna and Strider, that's kind of really made it a two-team race between the Dodgers and the Phillies. So San Diego, Danger, is the team that I'm looking at.
Yeah, Washington's been fun, especially this series with San Diego. It's been chippy, and I love that. But I love your take there on the Nationals. And here's why I think if they have veterans they can move, they will, because James Wood is a stud. We've had this front row seat here in Rochester to the point where, like, okay, he's healthy. When are they actually going to call him up? And you add in Dylan Cruz there, too. It seems like that's a team that, okay, they're not making a run for now, but look out here 2 years from now, PJ.
No question. And, a lot of people have kind of drawn the comparisons of maybe the Nationals are like the National League version of the Orioles a little bit, right? You have the Machado piece, you trade him, you get prospects. They obviously had the Soto piece, you trade him, get prospects. And now you're starting to see their guys that are kind of going to be the staples of their teams, right? The C.J. Abrams, the Mackenzie Gores. You just mentioned James Wood and Dylan Cruz. So the Nationals are coming. They're building their team the right way. I think what's going to be the toughest thing for the Nats guys is just the division that they play in, right? I mean, the Phillies aren't going anywhere anytime soon. The Braves certainly aren't going anywhere. The Mets have the richest owner in all of sports, so they're not going anywhere. They're going to take a big swing at Soto this offseason. So Nats are definitely building their team the right way. I think realistically 2 years from now, we could see them in the playoffs potentially. But that division that they play in is just it's really tough on the top end.
PJ, NBA draft tonight, and it feels like the only storyline that anybody really wants to talk about is where Bronny might end up. What's your take on tonight's action? And in New York State, I don't think we're even allowed to bet on who goes where. But you have your takesman. You've got takes on everything. What about the NBA draft tonight, bud?
Yeah, guys. A lot of people are so down on this year's NBA draft, obviously, because there's no Zion, there's no Wemby at pick number 1. But I kind of think that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it unknown, right? Like, nobody knows really. There's not a consensus number 1, number 2 this year. I'm interested to see where the UConn guys go. Donovan Klingen's been a name that's really been thrown out a ton. And obviously he's a big man, right? And a lot of these teams towards the top have pretty good big men. Houston's got Şengün. San Antonio's obviously got Wemby. So there's been a lot of talk that Houston wants to get into, like, the Durant sweepstakes. Do they take Klingen so they can move Şengün? Like, the chess pieces, San Antonio's got 2 picks in the top 8, picks 4 and pick 8. Like, do they make a move up? So Castle's a guy that I think maybe could surprise some people and go in the top 3. Klingen potentially could go in the top 5 as well. Interested to see where those guys go. And then the Kentucky guards also, Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham. I just loved watching them at Kentucky. And I'm interested to see where they get taken by which team, because I think in the right system on the right team, guys, they could be really good players. But the draft tonight, if people have a gut feeling on where certain guys are going to go, like, you're getting great odds on a bunch of these guys. So I think it could be, a fun night to take shots with certain players.
So this week in Detroit, Rocket Mortgage Classic, and your headline, wait, Scheffler's not playing. Okay, so he's not in this tournament, so it opens things up here a little bit, and it's actually, I don't want to say boring, but it's been less than exciting, having Scheffler always at the top. So
I'll say it's boring.
Okay, so PJ, how do you handicap this tournament?
Gene, you mean you don't want to watch the tournament with Tom Kim as the favorite? Ooh. I mean, it's going to be electric this week. Yeah, I know. Scotty's not playing, though, guys. So, like you said, it's kind of opened up the field. The handicap this week for the Rocket Mortgage is this is the 6th year they're playing this event. For the last 5 years, the winning score has been 24 under par or lower. So it's going to be a birdie fest. I mean, people are going to, they're going to be following along with this tournament. They're going to check their apps. They're going to see scores. Guys are going to be like 20 under par in the 3rd round. And it's just going to be one of those weeks. But really, the kind of golfer you're looking for this week, it's a wide-open golf course. They're going to hit fairways. They're going to hit greens. They're going to make a lot of birdies. But usually distance is a big thing here. So I'm looking for golfers that hit it far and make putts, right? Because guys that can hit it for the farthest and make the most birdies are going to have the best chance of winning. So Min-Woo Lee at 20-1 is the guy that I'm looking at. One of the best golfers on tour in strokes gained off the tee and an excellent putter as well. So Min-Woo Lee's a guy that I'm looking at. And then Keith Mitchell's another one that I like at 33-1. I think of all the guys in the field this week, Keith has the best combo of power and precision. So he's going to hit it far off the tee, and then he's also going to hit his irons as close to the flag as anybody, right? Even though he's not the best putter, if he can give himself better birdie chances than everybody else, I think Keith could be a look. So two guys that I'm on this week, guys, Min-Woo Lee, Keith Mitchell.
Now, PJ, you host a sports wagertainment show. Send it in on the BetQL network. I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you had anybody on to talk soccer here in the middle of summer when you've got the Copa Americana, when you've got the Euros happening right now? Any plays there? Have you talked to anybody? Do you have any sense of what's going on in either of these tournaments?
I have, yeah. I've probably had maybe like 3 or 4 guests on over the last couple of weeks, so we've definitely talked about it. We've previewed these teams. I've been watching it. I'll say this in the Euros, guys. To me, Spain and Germany right now look like the two best teams, and I think a lot of people feel that way. And the way that the Euros works is teams that make it to the knockout round, you get it's kind of like the way the NFL works, where if you win, you get the lowest seed remaining. So if you win your group, then you get the team that finished second in the other group. And it looks like England right now is going to be on the other side of the bracket of a bunch of good teams. So like France, Germany, Spain, they're all going to be on one side, and England's going to be on the other. So even though I don't think England's the best team, I do think maybe their odds to potentially make the final could be worth a look just in that sense. I do think Spain or Germany, though, are the two best, so I would look there. And then as for Copa, Brazil, they were massive favorites against Costa Rica the other night. They played to a 0-0 draw, so that was a really disappointing performance. Argentina's already 2-0. I mean, it's looking like it's going to be Argentina and Messi, guys. Colombia would be the one team, though, that I would keep an eye on. A lot of people I've talked to, that's a dark horse team. They won their first match 2-0. They beat U.S. 6-1 a couple weeks ago heading into the Copas. So Colombia, you can get them about 8-1 to win the Copas. And if you want a little stab, that'd be a team I would look at.
Send it in on the BetQL network, 1:30 daily. The show drops, but PJ, you can certainly, if you missed it at 1:30, you can go back on the Odyssey app and check it out.
It's exactly right, Gene. Yeah, we're on podcast. Send it in podcast, like you said, available wherever anybody gets their podcast. You can go check us out. 1 to 1:30 Monday through Friday, and it's an interactive show. It's just like this, no commercial breaks. We just hop from one sport to another, and it's a lot of fun. I've been watching a lot of soccer, guys, because as you know, there's not much to talk about these days now that the NHL's over and college baseball's over, so I'm watching a bunch of soccer.
I have no shame in watching soccer. I'll watch soccer in the Garage Mahal and just, it's almost like it's, dare I say, it's a little soothing. I'm not into it. I don't have a rooting interest. I mean, I'll root for Spain, but I it's just nice to have something on if your baseball team isn't playing or if you're not interested in what's going on.
No question. And, now that the U.S., obviously, there's expectations around this team. We don't expect them to beat Argentina or Brazil, but certainly we expect them to put up a fight, maybe make it to the quarterfinals or something. It certainly adds excitement to that. And then, just watching how good the players are in the Euros that play in, the Premier League and all that. It's pretty entertaining, and it's great timing for us people on the East Coast, right? These games starting at noon, 3 o'clock. You guys have games going on right now during your show. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, love it. PJ, thanks, man, and enjoy the time. We'll be off next week, so we'll catch up with you in a few, all right?
Happy 4th, fellas. I'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right, thanks, PJ.
He is the host of Send It In, Odyssey Sports Betting Insider, PJ Glasser. Insider calls presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app.
Yeah, and again, you pulled the McDermott there. I don't think we can bet on this.
We can't, right?
We can't.
Okay. I said I don't think because I haven't checked today on whether or not we can. And
I think they just
and they make up the rules. I feel like they make up the rules as they go.
And if you're new to the show, there's a hiccup with McDermott. He's got this thing where he'll take a fact and put it in as a question. A fact we all know. Yeah, we signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think they won a couple Super Bowls there in Kansas City.
He's got a couple Super Bowls on his resume, I think. Yeah, he's got a couple Super Bowls on his resume, Coach. Yeah. Love PJ. Love him stopping by. A little soccer as well.
This is unbelievable. And this is what we were kind of hoping for. Do you want to do this now, or do you want to save it for the other side?
Well, I think we can tease this now because it's big news. It's a little bit shocking when you look at this number. It's almost, I don't want to say it feels like a perfect storm, but I also think it's kind of a perfect storm. And I also think that the people behind this, the people that work around the sport, around the network, I think they were calling their shot. I feel like they knew that this was going to happen. This was special. This was entertainment, and for one night, at least for one night, the NHL dominated. Game 7. The ratings are out.
The ratings are out.
And we will dive into that here in a couple few. I've got thoughts on who you, as a Bills fan, should hold more accountable than anybody else going into this season. And it might be a challenge for you because many, many of us have fallen head over heels and can't imagine that he would be infallible. And an age-old habit that I am getting away from. I'll explain.
And I don't know if this is take of the year worthy, but this guy might be the biggest a-hole in sports. Yes, we will play the audio from the former Texas A&M manager.
Yeah, this guy's a piece of work.
Yeah.
We'll get to that and more. We have time for your calls as well. That number is 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger.
An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The NBA draft is tonight. The first overall pick belonging to the Atlanta Hawks. NHL draft coming up on Friday. Some Sabre news, although it's news we already knew. Reporter Chad DiDomenico is saying that Jeff Skinner's his buyout is going to happen.
It looks like once the window opens, which I can't really figure out. There's multiple reports, so it's this afternoon or tomorrow. But either way, when the window opens, they are going to go through with the buyout, barring something unforeseen in the trade market, but I don't see that.
Lance Lysowski from the Buffalo News. He's in Las Vegas for the draft. He will join us later this hour. On the Major League scoreboard, few finals in. We've got the Pirates over the Reds 6-1. The Phillies over the Tigers by a 6-2 score. Braves are up on the Cardinals 4-1 in the third in the top of the sixth. Houston leading Colorado 2-0. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The New York Knicks have acquired Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets for a boatload of picks and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Go New York, go New York, go!
F them picks!
All in, all in, all in.
Tonight, round one of the NBA draft. This year, for the first time, they've split it. We'll see if it works.
It's a complete crap. Mike Danger.
And I'm done with the seventh inning stretch. Give us a seventh inning moment of zen. I think my take offended Gene so much that he left the studio.
Gene Battaglia.
You call me the baseball writer. Did your father never take you to a baseball game?
Jeff Skinner.
We are proud to select
Chuck Muncy.
Minnesota 2024 Commissioner Cup champs. Well, because the Mets are so damn good.
The Mets win! Put it in the books! The Mets have absolutely teed off on Garrett Cole.
Grimace.
Who knew that college baseball was as spicy as it was?
Shocking soccer news. Alex Morgan has been left off the squad that will be playing in the Paris Olympics.
Jolly good morning.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Well, I'd like to say that, Gene, it's been a good run here in the sports bar. But it's just a matter of time before AI, Danger, and Battaglia take over the Rochester sports talk landscape.
Yeah, it's boy, that is one of the stories in the world. Doesn't matter what profession, it's coming quicker than you would think. But don't worry, because we've got the Olympics coming up, and kind of as like a demo, Al Michaels is going to be covering the Olympics, and here's a sample of Al Michaels.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome to your daily Olympic recap, your personal rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments. Since you're a swimming fan, let's head right to the pool. Team USA secured a stunning victory in the men's 4x100 meter medley relay, smashing the world record.
This is terrifying. So what this is, what you're hearing, this is a customized video of highlights, a video highlight package that Peacock users will have sent directly to them, voiced by Al Michaels.
Her bid for the final. Check out these highlights from yesterday's action.
Except that's not Al, that's AI
That's artificial Al.
Artificial Al. Al Michaels signed on for this project where they came up with the AI version of Al. So rather than send him over to Paris or drag him to a studio in LA or wherever, you will have now the computer with the voice-generated Al. Al, thanks a lot because you're putting somebody out of work there, pal.
Yeah.
Glad you got a little money for that.
That's good.
Thanks, Al.
That's great, Al. So, yes, enjoy us while you have us here in real time. The robots are taking over day by day. And, well, before long, it'll be AI Mike Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
Here in the sports bar hosting afternoons in Rochester, New York.
This James Wood, I don't know. What do we do? What do we do about the Amerks? You could have Francesa doing the show.
Sure, David Bacteria is going to be great with the New York Jets, but, David Bacteria hasn't played. He hasn't played in a little bit of time there, David Bacteria.
I'm sure Rogers is going to want to get Bacteria involved, but you know what? Bacteria is a guy who has been ravaged the last couple of years by injuries.
I hear that, and I'm almost like, go ahead. Just artificially intelligent everything. Throw AI in everything.
That's how it's going to end.
That's how it ends for all of us. Now, that's a little bit terrifying. This bit of news, however, little shocking, but I'm kind of elated by it. It makes sense when you consider the perfect storm that led to Game 7. And I wonder what it would have looked like if it were teams that were actually in major markets. We're talking about Florida, and we're talking about Edmonton.
Right. Edmonton, a population that is just a little bit bigger than Rochester. Oh, by the way, that's in Canada, in case you didn't know. And South Florida, which they really don't care about hockey, but good for them that they won the cup. And I like that they take all the platforms because, well, you had ESPN, you have streaming, blah, blah, blah. If you combine all the platforms, an average audience of 16.3? 16.3!
Big number for NHL
It's a
hockey.
huge number.
It's a big, big number. What did it say? That it represented like an 85% increase year over year?
Yes. So Game 7, Blues and Bruins from 2019. That's the only game in terms of a TV rating that did better in the last 20 years. However, now that we have all the other platforms, you can spin it and saying this is actually the biggest game. And there's a few things you can draw from it. One, people will watch talent. They will invest in a storyline. So little, small Alberta market doesn't matter. It's Connor McDavid. So people were familiar with the story. They heard about it. Number two, also helping to Danger, there was action right from the get-go. Goal, Edmonton comes back on a breakaway, and you were invested.
Yep.
So it was a great game that held viewers over the whole. The challenge now for the NHL is how do you keep this going to next year? How do you keep audiences? And maybe it's just as simple as making sure that you are in spots where you're going to get a stage to yourself. Game 7 on Monday night. What else was happening on Monday night?
World Series. College World Series. That's it.
Like, you didn't have, like, the Subway Series didn't start till the next night.
That's right.
There wasn't really anything in baseball that was going to pull you away from that.
Sunday night, you would have probably had to compete with Sunday Night Baseball. And I think you just get a bigger number. I don't know. I mean, ESPN, and I saw it cross my feed. I think Bucci tweeted something out about how he loved that it was on a Monday night because you get a bigger number on a Monday night than you would on a Sunday. And they got that big number. That number is bigger than any NBA Finals game or any World Series game in how long? What did I say? Like the last 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
The statistic was, when I saw it, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's crazy. Yeah, this number was bigger than any NBA Finals or World Series game in the past 5 years. Game 7, Monday night, the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah. In terms of just on ABC alone, it's a 59% jump over Panthers Vegas from last year.
Yeah.
So why was it, like, Vegas is a small market TV wise, but it just, people were invested in it, the story of coming back from a 3-0 hole.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big. You want to see history. You love a storyline? They had it for you, and that number reflects it. That's a big number for the NHL. Good for them. And I also think it helps that you've got now ESPN invested in hockey. You've got them talking about it on all of their shows. It's not taboo for them to talk about hockey because they're invested in it.
I'm wondering, too, Danger, how much legalized sports wagering plays in this. Now, just follow me on this, because hockey isn't the only sport that's enjoying a boom. Like women's basketball has just gone from 0 to 60. You could say, oh, it's Caitlin Clark. Yes, number one reason, no doubt about it. But the college game into the WNBA and storylines, some good, some bad. Betting has a place in that too, and I'm just wondering if people have a little action in it that maybe that helped out.
For sure. It absolutely did. And as somebody who was betting on the NHL throughout the course of the entire season.
Not very well.
I did well this year in the NHL. Yeah, the NHL, the NBA hurt me.
Oh, it's the NBA.
The NBA hurt me. The NBA was a problem, but the NHL did all right for me this year. But it does matter. And if you make that investment, you do have a rooting interest. You are going to pay a little bit closer attention. And I bet every one of those games, and Game 7 was part of it. And Yeah, it was that was when I saw that number, I'm like, good for the NHL, good for hockey. Now let's not try and screw this up. All right, can we gain some more momentum?
Right, and for that matter too, when you're trying to schedule games, it's okay to schedule in Edmonton. It's okay to schedule Toronto. I know you want the low-hanging fruit of Chicago or whatever market that you're going to go into, but people will watch Stars, period. End of story. You brought up the College World Series, Danger, and look, what are we going to remember from that College World Series? If you say, well, Tennessee is a 1 seed winning, no, you really have to follow the sport to, like, if you look back on
there were a couple of really, really spectacular plays throughout the course of the College World Series. I can't tell you now. My memory doesn't. I'm not reminded of who made those plays, but there was a crazy over-the-shoulder catch in an extra innings game, I think with Florida, that I remember seeing like, wow, that's a really, really significant play. There was a slide at home plate the Tennessee player made, I think, in Monday's game. That was spectacular.
Yeah, that got him fired up. You knew they weren't going to lose after that. I'm going to say, no, we're going to remember this soundbite. So Texas A&M, the losing team, and there's all these rumors. Manager Jim Schlossnagle, taking the podium afterward, was asked about it.
I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again, and that hasn't changed in my mind. That's unfair to talk about something like that. That'd be like you asking Montgomery if he's going to sign in the draft. But I understand you got to ask the question, but I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job, and I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job, and I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. So write that.
That was on Monday night. On Tuesday, Schlossnagle took the job in Texas.
What a jerk. What a dick. Absolute jerk.
There's one part of that, too, of that soundbite. I'm just like, I left my family to take this job.
Yeah, bring them into it.
Yeah, like, probably, like, you left your family. You mean you, like, left your wife and kids behind? Like, you're just kind of living on your own? What do you mean by that? Don't give players crap for going into the portal. Don't ever do it. And if your favorite player and your favorite team leaves for free agency, don't do it. But now college sports is pro sports, essentially.
Well, I mean, if college is meant to prepare you for the real world, in the real world, if you are offered a better job, you have a choice to make. You can take that better job, or you can continue on the job that you are in. And in this case, by all accounts, he's taking a better job. And the players can do the exact same thing. There's nothing stopping them from saying, I'm going to get a better job somewhere else.
All this guy had to do would say, we just lost the College World Series. It is not fair to talk about anything like that. And just shut it down that way. But say that question is selfish.
Yeah.
It's selfish.
Write that.
24
hours later, I'm going to Texas. Screw you.
Well, Nick Saban laid the groundwork way back. I'm not going to be the coach at Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of liars. Yeah. We are inching closer and closer to training camp at St. John Fisher University, Gino, and I'm going to lay out something today that I'm going to stick with through the course of this upcoming season. Now, if you're a Bills fan, all I ask, hold Josh Allen accountable. Everyone from the front office down has fallen in love with this guy's Musk. Fans love him. He can throw a football out of the stadium. He can leap linebackers in a single bound. He's charismatic. He dates a Hollywood starlet. He also makes some really boneheaded plays that at times cost his team a win. And don't be mistaken. If Von Miller fails to get pressure on a quarterback this season, we're going to crush him. If James Cook drops a touchdown pass, he'll never hear the end of it. I just want all of us to be prepared for the moments this upcoming season where Josh Allen loses a game for the Bills because of his poor decisions. And I want everyone to remember to hold him accountable. He shouldn't be held to a different standard of performance than anyone else on the roster. I know he's the quarterback. I know it's the most important position on the field, but let's not give him a pass if he screws something up and costs his team games.
How do you hold him accountable, though? This is one thing. Like, I understand, like, McDermott.
You criticize him. Nobody wants to criticize the guy when he does something wrong. It doesn't happen.
Right. Like, that Monday night loss, we are criticizing special teams. Like, you lost to Zach Wilson because you were making dumb plays to the point where McDermott is pointing at his own head. Like, okay.
Be smart.
Be smart. You can run for the first down. It's 10 yards. No, I'm going to unleash this.
Yeah, I tried to. Remember when he tried to hurdle over a guy that wasn't even going for the tackle? Like, Josh, be smart. And that's in him. I don't know that that's ever going to leave his game. And that week 1 loss, I don't put on special teams. I put that on Josh Allen.
You're going to get tired of me saying this, but I'm going to drill it in everybody's head. We're going to talk a lot of Buffalo Bills football. And we will talk about the wide receivers because you care about that. We will talk about the secondary. We'll talk about the offensive line. We'll talk about Ray Davis. It doesn't matter compared to 17. If 17 reaches his full potential, everything else magically will take care of itself.
And they've doubled down. The moves that they have made this offseason, they have doubled down. They're expecting Josh Allen to be the alpha. You don't have any impediments in your way. You don't have Steph Diggs demanding your attention or trying to lead a locker room. It's Josh Allen's team now. It's clear cut and dry. I'm just saying, hold him accountable. Don't fall head over heels for the guy who, at times, has made some really, really poor decisions. Hold him accountable. Criticize him. Don't be afraid to.
Stanley Cup Sabre pain, not rankings, pain ratings, I guess I would say.
Pain ratings for the Sabres.
Pain ratings. Number 4. Pain ratings. Number 4 on the list. It's the most recent, and I don't think it's the most painful. The 5 X's of Florida. Right? We've been through this. None of these 5 guys you would build a team around. And for anybody who's like, hey, the Sabres should bring back Sam Reinhart, stop. He didn't want to be here the first time. Find somebody else, okay? There's a lot of guys that can fill that role, and good for Sammy Hoist the Cup.
By the way, are you going to be okay when Jeff Skinner's in Toronto? I'm just thinking where he might end up next season.
I'm guessing Utah.
Oh.
Utah has all this money to spend. Let's follow the money.
Okay.
Follow the money. Number 3, I'll talk about, a guy, Toronto. Ryan O'Reilly. I've lost my love of the game. Blah, blah, blah. Wow, he found it real quick after he left Buffalo. Calculating, manipulative liar. And he's only number 3 on the list. Number 2, Eichel. Wait, you're not putting Eichel number 1? Well, look, about Eichel, it's not all about Jack. It's about the lie, okay? It's about the wasted time. It's about the failed plan hatched by Darcy Regier to tank. And Eichel was the symbol of that. And Eichel got hurt at the end. And Eichel, he was a divisive figure, no doubt, when he was here. Okay? But to me, when I say Jack Eichel, number 2 on the pain ratings, it's not just Jack. It's everything that came with it, the tank, and all those years. We're still trying to dig out. Number 1, because there was a lot of drama, and this is going to predate some people. It's Hasek. Before all these guys, he wanted out. And the Sabres got within 2 wins of the Cup. Hasek was supposed to be the guy that would lead us back there. And there was so much drama surrounding this guy. Did Ted Nolan really sleep with his wife?
Oh, my God.
I mean, to see the joy on his face, hoisting the cup in Detroit, did you remember being so angry, turning off the TV and slamming down the remote and thinking that should have been us?
Yeah. That one predates me a little bit. I've heard, like most Sabre fans have, the rumors of what went down behind the scenes when Hasek was in Buffalo.
So this is in the infancy when we were just on an AM and we were the ESPN 950, and he's in Minnesota now. Matthew Collar did a radio show.
Uh-huh.
He called it the Blue Line, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he had Ted Nolan on. And he asked him that question. I'm like, son of a gun, you had the balls to ask Ted Nolan? And Nolan's like, to my knowledge, it's the only time Ted Nolan has ever said, I don't know where this stuff has started. I don't know why he keeps following him out. There is absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. Funny how things start like
well, that. I can also say that based on the result of Game 7 on Monday night, a lot of moms across North America are sleeping easier knowing that Corey Perry doesn't get a day with the cup again. I don't know where this stuff gets started. Well, it probably gets started because there's some truth to it. It's not being just completely manufactured.
Well, Hasek beat the crap out of a sports reporter. Like that. That's all. Can you imagine that in this day and age?
No.
Like Jim Kelly, not the quarterback. This was the Sabre reporter at the time. Had his shirt ripped open.
By Hasek.
By Hasek.
Yeah. Yeah, different time. For me, it's still Jack. The promise of Jack, knowing that he wasn't the guy that you really wanted. You really wanted McDavid, but Jack was somebody that was right there, and you saw it on display, and he's a really good player. And I don't know. The longer he was in Buffalo, the more it just felt, this guy doesn't care. He just doesn't. He's not. He's doing all of the things he needs to do. He's invested in the community. He's involved in the community. He's putting on a good face, but he's and I call him the Jay Cutler of the NHL. Like,
he's sour. He's a sour guy.
He just felt like he was a guy that was only in it for himself and didn't have that ability to elevate the play of those around him. So when he left, I wasn't happy about it. It was almost like good riddance. But to see him win the cup the next year, gross.
So where like you joked yesterday, when Middlestat wins next year, where do we put the rank?
Middlestat.
Or Skinner shows up
the guy that couldn't do a pull-up at the Combine to hoisting a Stanley Cup the year after he leaves Buffalo. Non-sports take for me today, Gino.
Okay.
And this is a little bit relevant because while we were talking to PJ, it actually happened to me, and I noticed you did not say bless you. Now, you wouldn't say bless you to me in the middle of our conversation.
I couldn't do that,
with
no.
PJ Glasser. That would be bad radio. It would be inappropriate. I have stopped saying bless you altogether to someone who sneezes, and you may call me rude for doing that, but listen, we're not in the dark ages anymore, and who am I to draw power from God to wish well on a stranger? It's not like Beelzebub is trying to possess the soul of someone with allergies. On top of it all, Gino, I'm setting a trend here. If you're sneezing, that's on you. Try not to get anyone sick. Thanks.
Gesundheit?
Not into it.
Not into it. Why do we do that?
Sneezing is
Why
on
do we
you.
do that?
It was deemed polite at one point.
Yeah.
And I'm saying now, you don't have to do it anymore.
So, like, I'm going to get kind of blue here, but, like, if you're walking down and you rip one, this is not acceptable.
No, what we need to do is, in that regard, we need to adopt the Trent Baalke method of acknowledgement.
We're not there yet. We still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet. We'll do that on Monday.
So we just need to acknowledge and move on. Just acknowledge and move on. You can say excuse me after a sneeze. I'll be fine with that. But the bless you or the God bless you, I don't have. Who am I? I can't draw that power to somehow magically heal you. That's not me. You're not being possessed. I hope you feel better. That sneeze is on you. Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News is in Vegas for the NHL Draft happening Friday night. We'll talk some Buffalo Sabres next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
Tonight in Brooklyn, it's the NBA Draft, the first overall pick belonging to the Atlanta Hawks. The NHL Draft coming up on Friday. That's in Vegas. And in Vegas right now, Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News. He joins us next year in the Sports Bar. Game 2 of the Subway Series tonight. The Mets looking to take Game 2 of this series. Here's Mark Vientos.
We've been swinging the bat pretty good. I feel like we're riding the wave. We're sticking to our plan, our approach. We talk about it before games, and feel like we keep doing this, we'll be dangerous.
On this getaway Wednesday, the Pirates over the Reds 6-1. Phillies knocking off the Tigers by a 6-2 score. It was Seattle over Tampa Bay 5-2. No score in the second between the Nationals and the Padres. Braves are up on the Cardinals in the 6th by a 6-2 margin. Royals up on the Marlins 5-1 as they're in the top of the 9th. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You know, I'll leave specifics out, but I think it's safe to say that I have a lot of respect for Jeff. I mean, he's clearly an elite offensive player in this league. He's done it a long time. He's scored a lot of goals in this league, and I have a lot of respect for Newport Sports, who represents him.
Sabres GM Kevin Adams last week on the future of Jeff Skinner. We welcome in Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News, covering the Sabres, covering the NHL Draft in Vegas right now, where it's, as always, a dry heat. Lance, thanks for making time for us. It's an all but foregone conclusion. Skinner's gone, right?
Nothing is done until it's done. I don't like to speak in guarantees, especially when you never know what could happen. Mm-hmm. This is obviously a path that they are exploring extensively because their options to create cap space for next season are very limited. And this is a player who, although has a extensive history of being able to score, particularly at 5-on-5, there are significant questions stemming from his really disappointing second half to last season, and whether or not he can actually play under a coach like Lindy Ruff. There are reasons why the Carolina Hurricanes wanted to get rid of Jeff Skinner the moment that Rod Brind'Amour took over as their head coach back in 2018. Although he's talented, there's some deficiencies in his game that it's difficult to play winning hockey with the amount of ice time that he receives and the sort of weaknesses in his game that become glaring at the time of the year when the Sabres want to be having success.
Lance, one of the options here, although it feels like it's a remote option, you tell me that the Sabres could trade. If that is possible, what could possibly be the return, or is that just wishful thinking here?
It's a long shot. That would definitely be their preference because you could retain on Skinner and you would only have to he would only be on your books for 3 years as opposed to 6 with a buyout. That is much more ideal, and you wouldn't have a year. With a buyout, you have $6.4 million in one of the years. That is a massive price tag to have to pay for somebody who's not on your team. That is tough to stomach, regardless of where the cap looks at that point. So, yeah, they would like to trade him, but he has a no-movement clause. So if you're Jeff Skinner, why would you approve any trade? Because think about the types of teams that are going to be exploring that possibility. It would be Chicago, San Jose. These are non-playoff teams that are simply just trying to get to the cap floor. Jeff Skinner's played 1,000 games in this league without being in the playoffs. If he's leaving, he's going to want to go somewhere where he has the opportunity to win. That matters to him more than anything. So, yes, and even if they would be able to get a deal that makes sense for Skinner, again, you're not getting anything. You're probably packaging picks or prospects with him to just get them off your books, whereas the Sabres would prefer to use that draft capital and prospect capital to upgrade their roster rather than losing a player off of it.
So, Lance, I apologize if we're treading on scorched earth here and we're talking about what this buyout means for the future as you're looking at multiple years where you're paying a player who's no longer on your roster. Tell me about the cap ramifications here of this buyout for Skinner if it happens and what it might mean in terms of their ability to build a championship caliber roster in Buffalo.
You would have $7.5 million of savings for next season, which is massive, especially in a year where you need to win. There is pressure and expectations on everyone, right? If it doesn't go well next season, we all know the likelihood that there could be additional changes outside of just the coach, right? So if you're Kevin Adams, it's time to push some chips in the middle of the table. And if you feel that you need a different type of player with that money next season, then yes, it makes sense. But of course, long term, the last 3 years are going to be $2.5 million. You have 1 year where it's $6.5 million. That is not easy to stomach. So if you do go that route, you are really going to need to make sure that your prospect pipeline is strong. You're going to need players on entry-level contracts contributing in those years. Because, yes, right now we can look at the cap and say, oh, well, they're going to have X amount of players off the books in 2026. They'll be fine. Well, they're going to eventually have to pay J.J. Peterka if he continues on this upward trajectory. Jack Quinn's eventually going to have to get paid. Bowen Byram, Devin Levi. I can keep going down the list. So if they do go the buyout route, they're going to have to be very careful on what's next. I don't see it unrestricted free agency being a realistic option, although I do think they're going to pursue someone like Chandler Stevenson as a replacement for Casey Middlestad on that third-line center position. But we all know, attracting free agents to Buffalo is a challenge in a good year, let alone when you're in the middle of a 13-year playoff drought with another head coach and uncertainty on what this is going to look like a year from now if they miss the playoffs again. So you're looking at the trade option being much more realistic, but then you have no movement clauses, no trade clauses. So this is a significant gamble anywhere you put it for Kevin Adams if he decides to go the buyout.
Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News, joining us from Las Vegas, where round one will be coming up on Friday night. And I think, Lance, a lot of us have the expectation that there will be a trade. I don't know if it happens before the draft or somewhere in the next few weeks. And you write about this today in the Buffalo News that, all right, if you're going to move some things, what are some attractive pieces? And you look at some of the guys in Rochester that maybe aren't quite ready yet, maybe not in Buffalo, but what are the odds and who may they be, Lance, that some of the names we're familiar with here in Rochester might actually get moved?
I think everybody's on the table except for Yuri Kulik. I think they're open to moving anybody else for the right price. Kulik is almost ready for the NHL. It wouldn't shock anyone if he's ready to contribute this coming season. He could play center. He could play wing, a top six player in the future. Don't see them moving him. Everybody else, the Sabres are open for business. They are not limiting themselves with anything if it fetches them the player or players that they feel can help them win next season. So open door. Who knows? It all depends on what they get in return. And they're also open to moving the 11th pick, which isn't as valuable as somebody like a Noah Ostlund or a Matt Savoy, which complicates the situation, of course, if you're trying to add to your NHL roster for next season.
Yeah, I mean, and there's kind of like an unwritten or unspoken rule amongst NHL GMs. I mean, they move and do deals in different ways. I mean, there's almost like a gentleman's agreement to not do certain things when you get to this point of the offseason. Is there not, Lance?
Well, in some ways, yes, but I think the challenging part, if you're talking about moving any first-round pick, is how do you value it? Because the Sabres are going to value 11 overall more than other teams are, most likely. Now, it changes if you're in that top 10, and it could change on draft night if a certain player falls that people aren't expecting. Like, there's several different guys who could fall. Maybe a top defenseman falls, and suddenly a team that, was lowballing the Sabres suddenly matches their offer. You don't know, but it is very difficult to move those first-round picks. That's why we don't see it as often as fans would like.
Lance, we're not going to pretend that we know all these prospects. We've heard some of the names that could be selected by, assuming Buffalo stays at number 11 here. And if they do, is there a change in philosophy, meaning, hey, are the Sabres taking the best prospect here? Maybe that takes some time in development. Or are they going to lean a little bit more into the player that might be the most ready-made here to step into the lineup?
Their philosophy is best player available, and that's not going to change. I think that there is a bigger conversation, though, that the scouting staff has engaged in, which is, should they, smaller forwards, of course, the Sabres drafted Matt Savoy, Isak Rosen, Noah Ostlund. Does this team really need to use another first-round pick on a forward that's under 6 feet tall, or a smaller defenseman if that's the position. Because suddenly if you keep drafting players like that, a lot of your prospects start to look the same, which is a massive issue. I think that's a bigger conversation as opposed to readiness, because that's impossible to gauge. It really is. In the first round, that projection, there's so many factors that go into development. There's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs. It's not linear, so you really can't think in that mindset. I think, though, is physically what a kid's frame looks like. If you have a 6'2" forward and a 5'9" one, and they're pretty close together, that becomes a debate. That becomes a bigger conversation.
Lance, when we get to enjoy what we did on Monday night, a thrilling Game 7 with a massive TV number and two teams that left it all on the ice, we'll put aside all the ex-Sabres that were in that game hoisting the cup and just kind of look at it through the lens of what can Sabres fans, or what can the Sabres learn from the two teams that were battling it out for the Stanley Cup this postseason?
Structure defensively is a big one. That is how Edmonton took the leap that it did. The Oilers were too weak defensively in previous years. It cost Jay Woodcroft his job as head coach. Chris Knobloch comes in, gives them structure, and you saw how well they were able to defend when they rallied from that 3-0 deficit to force the Game 7. They were so good defensively. Another piece is being hard to play against. Look how physical both of those teams were, right? Especially Florida, which is a nasty, physical, fast team. That is I think you're going to start to see this, and we've seen the last couple of years, especially since Tampa Bay had its run of Stanley Cups. Everybody wants to have hard skill in their lineup. Not only do you want fast, skilled players who can score, they also have to be really difficult to play against. You think about Matthew Tkachuk, right? I think everybody going into this draft is looking for the next guy who could play like Tkachuk. They're not easy to find. But Kevin Adams has said he wants to build, of course, and you try to take different things from a team like Edmonton or Florida, but you have to build it and make it authentic to what the Sabres are and the personnel they have on their roster. So I think especially when you look at what this team's going to try to do in the coming days, it's trying to be harder to play against and become a better defensive team, which is why the Skinner buyout/trade has become very much at the forefront of conversations in terms of what they're trying to do here in the coming days.
He's in Las Vegas right now. Our friend Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News, covering the Buffalo Sabres, and this story coming across here, the ratings, Lance, according to Deadline, if you add up all the platforms, 16.3 million. The average, you're talking about a number that beats the World Series, beats the NBA Final. Can actually hockey, we've been waiting for something like this. Can the NHL take advantage of this and move this into the next year?
If Gary Bettman gets out of his own way, I think that his stubbornness has held the league back. From a marketing perspective, the league is far behind the others to where they're going to continue to be a distant fourth behind the NFL, MLB, and NBA because they don't know how to market their top players. And even with Connor McDavid in the Stanley Cup final and playing at the level that he did, there's still a serious, I think, they're overlooking that aspect of it. You need to market your stars. You need to market your star players. And, of course, they have the Amazon Prime reality series that's going to be coming out where they follow a handful of guys throughout the year. That'll help, but it's a great game. I think that it was cool to see how many, whether it be somebody like Dan Orlovsky or other NFL analysts who are tweeting about the Stanley Cup final, people who don't give hockey an opportunity in other years gave it a chance this year, and it's because of the product. It's fast, it's exciting, and the NHL just needs to lean into that. And they've done that with some of the rule changes, but they need to continue to find ways to grow the game.
To see Kyle Opozo hoist the cup, to be the third guy on the team to get his hands on the cup there in Florida, kind of shows you how much weight that guy carried with him into that locker room. And through his career, Lance, the Sabres have a void as they head into the next year as far as who's going to wear the C on their sweater. Do you have a preference in terms of who you think could actually end up being the captain of next year's Sabres?
I wouldn't give it to anybody personally. I would let Lindy Ruff have time to evaluate each of those players from a leadership perspective. And honestly, Rasmus Dahlin has every quality you look for in a captain, in my opinion. But do you really want to place that pressure on him at this stage of his career, given all the expectations and pressure to win next season? There's no point. I would make it 3 alternate captains this year. I would make it Darlene, Tuck, and either Thompson or Cousins, probably Thompson for the experience factor, and to alleviate some pressure off of Cousins, let him bounce back after a challenging year. And then I would let those guys prove it to management and the coaching staff who deserves that C on their chest. There's no reason to rush into this. The Sabres rushed into it with Jack Eichel. He wasn't ready yet. That's the last position you want to be in. So take your time, evaluate it, let Ruff make that call. And he's been around some great captains over the years. He was one himself, so he knows what it takes.
There isn't another sport that has an off season that is just like this, where, hey, the championship is over, a parade will happen, here's the draft, bam, and then Monday we have free agency opening. Like, oh, my goodness. And I don't think this gets done Monday, but the name that is, once again, you hear in circles, Patrick Kane, does that make sense this time around? Could you see that happening?
If he's willing to take a 1-year deal, I could absolutely see it happening, but the reports of him wanting 2 or 3 years, I wouldn't do that if I were the Sabres. He's 35 years old, and even though he had a successful run with the Red Wings, there is the injury history you have to consider. And would you be better off using that money elsewhere, whether it be a younger top 6 forward on the trade market, a third-line center like Chandler Stevenson? I would consider it. I think it's very much a possibility, but in the end, I don't expect it to happen.
Lance, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lance.
No, we'll see, right? I mean, everything changes hour by hour at this time of year, but right now, I don't expect him to be a Sabre next season.
Lance, you keep mentioning Stevenson, and he certainly seems like a free agent you think would make a lot of sense for the Sabres. Do you have any other names, any other free agents that they might be targeting?
I'll give you positions more so than names because that is so fluid and changes quickly. They are looking for a center who can play on the 3rd and or 4th line. They are not looking for a top 6 center. They have 2 that they are paying a combined $99 million on long-term contracts in Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins. So you're looking at a 3rd-line center, probably. You're looking at a defenseman potentially to replace Yoki Haru. That's a big wild card here. What are they going to do with Henry Yoki Haru? Are they going to be comfortable paying possibly a 3rd-pair defenseman $4+ million a year? I have a hard time envisioning that, considering they want to get harder to play against. They want different skill sets. They want more physicality. That's not really Yoki Haru's game. So if they part ways with him, do they bring in a different type of defenseman? Depth is a priority. They're going to sign a goalie for Rochester. Eric Comrie is very much in play there. Eric Comrie is, despite everything that's happened, Comrie is open to listening to the Sabres pitch on why he could be their number 3 next year. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think the big one for me in free agency, which I don't see happening because of all the recruitment challenges that I've mentioned already, is Chandler Stevenson. He fits exactly with what they're looking for. It's just, what does the number look like? Does it make sense for them? Is it something that he would be willing to do? Because although Vegas may not be able to afford him, there are going to be contenders lining up to sign a player like that to a contract that Adams may not comfortable, going that round after declining to sign Casey Middlestead.
What did you make of the Allmark trade? Boston and Ottawa here, and is Ottawa one of those teams we kind of have to look at, as we think Buffalo is one of these years going to step up, but you have other teams in the East that want to do the same thing. What did you make of that trade, Lance?
I loved it for Boston, actually, because they have a goaltending coach they feel can get more out of Korpisalo. Bob Essena is one of the most respected in his job in the National Hockey League. He fixed a lot of deficiencies in Allmark, and there's history tells us he could still do that with somebody like Korpisalo, plus Mark Kostelik's a really physical, miserable to play against type of bottom 6 center, and a first-round pick for Allmark, who only has 1 year left on his deal. And although he's a very talented goalie, I don't think he's going to have the same success with the way that Ottawa has the Senators are going to have to fix their defensive game to give Allmark any chance of coming close to what he accomplished in Boston. I don't see that happening. As much as there's talent in Ottawa, they're going to have to change that mix and change the way they play under Travis Green for me to have any level of confidence that Allmark's going to be the solution there.
All right, Lance, you're in Vegas for the draft, and I know you're there on business, but come on. I mean, you're in Vegas. Paint a picture for us. You're going to be at the Sphere. Have you been over there yet? What have you done?
Not yet. I've just been at the media. I flew in yesterday. It was 112 degrees. I had a long travel day, so I actually fell asleep before 8 p.m. local time. I'm boring, I know. I woke up at 6 a.m. local time today to start working, and we'll see. I don't really plan on doing much other than keep my ear to the ground and doing work. So won't get over the Sphere probably until Friday, but I'm excited about that to see what that's all about. Kevin Adams addresses reporters tomorrow afternoon, so that's something to keep in mind. The buyout window for the NHL opens tomorrow morning, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Lance, we wouldn't expect anything less. Always working. Lance Lysowski, Buffalo News. You've got that article I think Amherst fans would find interesting. What else can we check out here?
Oh, hey, I wrote something today on how Casey Middlestad's contract with the Avalanche, what that may tell us about the Sabres playing at center. I've got a story on Kevin Adams and his approach to this off season, which will be online on Thursday morning that people can read. And there's plenty of pre-draft coverage, and I'll be here until Sunday. Then I cover free agency on Monday, and then Sabres hold their development camp next week, Monday through Thursday.
Jeez.
So we'll see what happens.
All right, Lance. Well, if you do find yourself at a table, double down on 11 one time for the sports bar, and we'll talk to you after the draft, man. Hope you have a great weekend.
Not a gambler, my friends. But hey, always a pleasure. Talk to you soon. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Lance.
There's Lance Lysowski, the Buffalo News, covering the Sabres at the NHL draft in Las Vegas. The Sphere, I hear, is amazing. My sister-in-law was there last month, raved about it. Everybody that's gone has said amazing things about it. We have a coworker who went and saw U2 at the Sphere. We couldn't stop talking about it. One of those places that when you see it, you kind of leave marvel. I imagine that's going to be a pretty cool scene on Friday.
It is just one of those places that if you haven't been there in a couple of years, so much changes.
Yeah. Appreciate Lance carving out some time for us and getting us straight here on what the Sabres could look like here over the course of the next few days and weeks as they build a roster that hopefully ends a playoff drought that's lasted far too long. If you missed that conversation, if you missed our conversation with PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In, the Odyssey Rewind feature inside the Odyssey app. You search out the Fan Rochester. You can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with Happy Hour next in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, our lines are open, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We've got another draft tonight. Everybody excited? No, Nick Fan should be excited. That not in regards to the draft, but like the NBA tonight takes center stage, and we also have this story surrounding Tua that we can revisit.
Yeah, we'll get to that and more next. As you mentioned, our number, 866-4326. We have time for your calls during Happy Hour, 866-4FAN.
You're listening to WRF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It's night number 1 of the NBA draft tonight. First overall pick belonging to the Atlanta Hawks. NHL draft coming up on Friday, but news in between as reporter Chad DeDominicis and others reporting that the Jeff Skinner buyout is happening.
It looks like once the window opens, which I can't really figure out. There's multiple reports. So it's this afternoon or tomorrow. But either way, when the window opens, they are going to go through with the buyout, barring something unforeseen in the trade market, but I don't see that.
The buyout window begins tomorrow. The Rochester Red Wings are home tonight, taking on Indianapolis once again. Finals in the majors today. Houston has now won 7 in a row. Astros over the Rockies by a 7-1 score. Pirates get a 6-1 win over Cincinnati. Philadelphia winning in Detroit 6-2. It was the Mariners winning in Tampa Bay 5-2. Padres are up on the Nationals 2-0. They're in the third. Gene Battaglia on the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The New York Knicks have acquired Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets for a boatload of picks and Bojan Bogdanovic.
Go New York, go New York, go!
F them picks.
All in, all in, all in.
Tonight, round 1 of the NBA draft. This year, for the first time, they've split it. We'll see if it works.
It's a complete crap. Mike Danger.
And I'm done with the 7th inning stretch. Give us a 7th inning moment of zen. I think my take offended Gene so much that he left the studio.
Gene Battaglia.
You call me the baseball writer. Did your father never take you to a baseball game?
Jeff Skinner.
We are proud to select
Chuck Muncy.
Minnesota, 2024, the Listener Cup champs. Well, because, the Mets are so damn good.
The Mets win! Put it in the books! The Mets have absolutely teed off on Garrett Cole.
Grimace.
Who knew that college baseball was as spicy as it was?
Shocking soccer news. Alex Morgan has been left off the squad that will be playing in the Paris Olympics.
Jolly good morning.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I caught you, Gino. It's not as bad as the executive producer catching you chase a skirt or watch a skirt that goes by. You were gazing lovingly at that portrait behind you. Chuck Muncy. Now a part of Sports Bar studio decor with that image back there. And I stare at it, too. It's a lovely piece.
You don't have to be a Chuck Muncy fan to just appreciate what football was like way back when, where get back in there. Here's some smelling salts, and it's Chuck just dazed on the sideline.
I'll hold your glasses. Here, sniff this and get back out there. Or at least we think it's smelling salts. For all we know, they have a wheelbarrow of cocaine in the locker room for Chuck Muncy exclusively. Who knows? We appreciate you checking out the stream. If you haven't seen the Chuck Muncy portrait there in Gino's background, you can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. We're also streaming on Twitch. Twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester. We appreciate you tuning us in at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, or your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan.
See, we're not used to being on camera. We kind of forget sometimes. I realize, I'm blocking the Chuck Muncy photo, so I moved a little bit to my right.
We got to work on our angles
a
little bit. If only our kids could tell us what the proper angling for selfies and camera positioning. So, we're just a couple of old guys here. The Chuck Muncy picture there in the backdrop is... Yeah, that's fantastic.
That is that is Danger went to a collectible show in Virginia over the weekend, and when I tell you that is one of the best gifts that was.
I was always thinking about us. I was thinking about the Sports Bar. I was thinking about the Sports Bar regulars, those who are in the know. Your buddy Andy, who called in as Joe from Schenectady to drop the Chuck Muncy on us. That weighed heavily in my decision to find a piece of memorabilia for the Sports Bar that we could all appreciate, and that Chuck Muncy picture. I'm a fan. Speaking of the NFL, do we have a potential holdout situation in Miami?
I'm going to say no for this reason. It never happens with the quarterback. You never let it get to this position. You're always sitting down. You have to be on the same page with your quarterback. I'm looking through in history. We had Kelly Stouffer in 1987. Who cares? I barely remember that guy. You have holdouts all over the place. Darrelle Revis, Le'Veon Bell. We might have one of the Niners receivers holding out. It doesn't happen. But Danger, I look at the Tua story in Miami, they've been trying to get off this guy for a while. They tried to trade for Deshaun Watson. They tried to trade for Tom Brady or sign Tom Brady. They concocted this whole plan. It cost them a first-round pick as a penalty, and they never got Tom Brady. So in the back of their mind, the owner, the management over the years, they've always thought we can do better than Tua here. And credit Mike McDaniel, I suppose. They've gone in, they've come up with this offense, but heck, they have two of the best receivers, maybe the best tandem at wide receiver in the league, at least in speed. So what do you do if you're Tua? And I can see what you're saying. Like, he hasn't gotten the contract yet. That is an option he could go to. But his personality danger, I think they're banking on that he's not somebody with his upbringing that would actually dare to hold out.
It's the only leverage that he has. If he wants a long-term deal with that team, if he wants to get the kind of money that his peers are getting, I feel like the only thing he can do is not show up to training camp. And I know that the likelihood of that is slim. You mentioned it. It doesn't happen often. And it's probably not in his DNA to do that. But, man, what happens if he gets concussed one more time? Miami gets over. Miami is playing it the right way. I get what they're
playing
doing.
the right way. What's plan B? That would be my question here is, like, there are other – hey, for the Jets, at least they'll have Tyrod. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt this year, Tyrod's better than anything else.
At least they'll have Tyrod.
Well, what do they have in Miami? Like, what would be the plan? This is why they should have been.
I know you know what they should do. I think he's still out there. I don't know, but I mean,
well,
okay. Like most people from the Northeast, what do as you get older? You go down south. You find a little comfort. Tommy DeVito might be out there. Of course, he would go to Miami because he's Italian, Gino.
Did you see his agent was in the news?
No, I didn't.
His agent got an audience ready for this. Remember his agent Monday Night Football dressed as
of course.
He was with His Holiness. I'm not talking about the local bishop. He was with the Pope.
He was hanging with the Pope.
He brings the Pope in NFL football.
Wow. DeVito's agent.
Wow.
Why wasn't DeVito? I don't even know if he's been signed. But
that was too easy, though. Like, of course he's going to see the Pope.
Yeah, because he's Italian, Gino. I don't know where he's going or what, and I'm being cheeky. The point is, there isn't really a plan B for Miami at quarterback. So, yeah, Tua probably does show up to start training camp. Holding out has kind of like mutated and morphed into something that's unspoken. It still happens. Players still do it, but it isn't the way we think it is. Like you said, who's the last quarterback to hold out? And in my opinion, it was Lamar Jackson.
But that was in season, though.
Right. It was the end of a season. Yeah. He didn't have a long-term deal. He got injured. He was good to go as the team was making a postseason run, and he didn't get back on the field. That, to me, and he still got his.
Right.
That, to me, is what a holdout in 2024 might look like. Now, does that mean Tua shows up to camp and, I sprained my ankle the first day of practice, and you don't see him at camp moving forward? I don't know. But, the only leverage that guy has is not being there when they open up camp to try and get that $55 million a year contract, or $60 million a year. I don't know that Tua is the first 60 guy, but it's we're going there. We're heading that direction. Somebody's going to get 60 a year.
Yeah, and this is why you always want to be in front of it. And as soon as Trevor Lawrence signed, you're behind it. And for Tua to be the next guy, I understand it from the Miami standpoint, like the concussion history. Is he really going to be the guy? I'm sorry. This is the cost of doing business. There are lots of teams in the NFL that have to pay their quarterback. Do you really think the Giants wanted to pay Daniel Jones all that money? No, but they didn't really have another answer.
It's a terrible deal right now, right? When you look at it, you're like, what were they thinking? But yeah, the Tua saga is going to be one worth monitoring. Of course, what's going on with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, I think to a lesser degree. certainly for fantasy football purposes, you're going to be paying attention to that to see where he goes or if he stays, what that might mean. But it's an interesting storyline this offseason because, frankly, there's a lot of drama this offseason in terms of who might get signed or who might get theirs. That one kind of lingers out there. And, of course, it's Miami. Miami is, whether they have their success or not, at their core, they're still a dysfunctional organization getting docked first-round draft picks for tampering. Another bit of news that crossed our feed today that we thought was worthy of note, and I'll preface it by saying, and I said this on Tuesday after we watched Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, that I'm sad. I'm sad that it was such a great game and the sport is awesome and it's so much fun, but 95% of America really doesn't care about the NHL, that it's just not really, it's not this mass appeal sport. This number might challenge what I said on Tuesday because the Stanley Cup Game 7 ratings are out. 16.3 million viewers watched Game 7 on average for the final across North America. You had 85% year-over-year growth. A final average, I should say, of 18.8 million viewers across all platforms in North America. 16.3 million total. Which, by the way, draws more than any NBA Finals or World Series game in the past 5 years. Now, is that on the NHL gaining popularity now that they're on a bigger platform on ESPN and TNT? Or is it this was a perfect storm, a great storyline? There was high drama from a series that we thought, frankly, was going to be over the way the NBA's final was over quickly to, oh my God, we're in a Game 7 and Edmonton can actually win this thing. And oh, by the way, it's the best player in the world. Are more people tuning in because of that scenario? Because let's face it, most of America doesn't care about a Florida-Edmonton Game 7.
Well, Danger, we had kind of a similar conversation, okay? And there was another sport, and it was actually in this calendar year. It was actually on a Monday night. And that drew 18.9 million. Wow, that was a record. What am I talking about? It was South Carolina, undefeated South Carolina beating Caitlin Clark. And I had to take hey, this is the beginning of good things. It's not going to be, and you're like, no. Time out. This is Caitlin Clark. This is why people tuned in. So Caitlin Clark, and I'll listen to that. That was the reason. And likely the women's number is going to be down. It was the star power of Connor McDavid and this Edmonton team that you've always kind of sort of heard about. But here they were trying to do something that hadn't been done since the 1950s. That's when 4 straight, being down 3-0. It was a storyline. It was star power. So the NHL, and we're joined by Lance Lysowski, he points this out. The NHL does a lot of things wrong right at the top of the list, marketing their stars. Connor McDavid should be in commercials and should be everywhere, and he's up in Edmonton, and you kind of heard about him, but since you don't, that was part of the story.
Yeah, part of it also is that a lot of these NHL guys are just stiff. They're not really big personality guys. I mean, hell, we're talking about Jeff Skinner getting bought out. He's probably the biggest personality on the Sabres roster,
which is saying something.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think that there's something to the actual production of the game. And we could talk about, McDonough not being what Doc Emmerich was for all those years. I'll listen to that, obviously, in the play-by-play. I thought McDonough's call for Game 7 was actually...
It was good. Yeah.
I thought he was right on.
Yeah.
And he's been battling illness throughout most of the postseason. But even the pregame production piece, the gloves piece, this 3-minute long piece talking about gloves, and you got gloves flying in the air and the gloves that hold the cup. I'm watching that. I'm like, NBC could never, and never did, and never built up the drama and never hyped it up to the level that ESPN and Turner, to a lesser degree, have the ability to do. So I think there's a lot to be said for where it is, where it potentially is going. I'm not going to tell you that because of this number. Hockey is now the second most popular sport in North America behind NFL football. I don't believe that. They have a long way to go, but I did think that was a massive number for Game 7 and also an encouraging sign that given the right circumstances, people actually do care, even if they don't like hockey. I have friends who never watch hockey, but they at least tuned in for part of that game just to see how it would turn out.
Yeah, so how do you carry this over? And for women's basketball, it was simple. Like, hey, here's the next season. Let's tune in and see Caitlin Clark. And, hey, that's been getting record numbers here. Look, and it wasn't just Game 7, by the way. Like, it averaged 8.8 million per game. And you got to go back to 2013. That was the Blackhawks and Bruins when you had two major markets. These are two markets that, look, Edmonton, small market, okay? Little bigger than Rochester, but not by much. And it's way up there, okay? And in South Florida, not exactly a hockey market. But it just tells you people will watch Stars. So next year, can you get the Edmonton Oilers on a little bit more? Can you get the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because it's small-minded to think we're going to schedule games based on trying to go in after a local number. We don't do that with the Green Bay Packers. It's the Packers. It's Jordan Love or whoever the quarterback has been over the years. They're going to draw a number. Do it now with Edmonton, okay? They're not going to break up anytime soon, although I see Draisaitl. I mean, I got one email talking about odds of him getting traded. I don't see him getting traded.
Why are you so pissy?
Oh, because he lost Game 7. Did you see how much he was out there final 20 minutes of that game? That's why he's pissy. Can't walk for the next week. Poor guy. So that number is massive. The other bit of news from today, or what we're expecting later tonight, of course, it's round 1 of the NBA draft.
Come on. I want chaos. Somebody other than the Lakers, please draft Bronny tonight. Force a trade. See LeBron explode on X. I want that to happen tonight, but no. We're going to get number 17 overall. The biggest reach in the history of any draft, drafting LeBron's son in the first round. Can't wait.
The Villanova Knicks are going to be exciting next year.
They are. Like, we talked about this after the Knicks. Okay, look, this is a team on the rise, but they're missing something. No, don't go for the big star. No Paul George, certainly no KD. What would be the right pick? Wait, you're kidding me. The Nets actually gave Mikal Bridges? Are you kidding me? A great defender, 19 points per game last year. You send... Are you kidding me? The Jets and Giants don't make a trade. Rare the Mets and Yankees. But I see where the Nets are working here, Danger. This is going to be something we're talking about for years here if this works for Brooklyn.
If it were. I mean, how many first-round draft picks?
16 between tonight and 2031. 16 first-round picks for Brooklyn.
It's insane. It's insane. And I don't know if you heard this or not, but this move by the Knicks signifies that they are indeed all in. We got to retire that. What, they weren't before they made the trade?
Okay, so, like, they don't sign OG, then, we're not.
We weren't really all in. We were just, saying we're all. Like, Jerry Jones has ruined it for football fans, saying that he's all in. They've done nothing. They're not going to do anything. We're all in. Okay, you're all in?
See, I got a theory on that. I think people misinterpret that. You want your money? Then go ball out.
Yeah. Well,
that's what he meant by that.
We're all in for this year with the guys that we have, and they have to go out there and prove it. Yeah, that's a healthy way to run that organization.
Well, that's Jerry.
That is Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big move for the Knicks, and it's an exciting move for the Knicks. Now you have Bridges paired with his Villanova teammates, and OG. They have every intention, from what you hear out of New York, every intention of taking the big swing and giving OG what they can to get him to stick around as well. And all that said, I still don't know that it's enough to take down Boston, but it'll be exciting.
Who knows?
It'll be exciting.
Who knows, like, how this league works. So the Knicks do not have a first-round pick tonight. Yes, I know there's no Wembanyama. I know there's no Zion. But boy, oh boy, I haven't given two thoughts about this draft here tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. And congratulations, LeBron. You got your wish. I mean, we're really only paying attention to you and your wishes of your son being drafted in the first round. We'll see if that happens tonight. we're appreciating everything that you've done to this.
Well, we don't appreciate him enough.
No, I mean we need to appreciate him more. So we'll go ahead and sit back and grab our popcorn and wait for Bronny to get selected at some point tonight. Maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow. I mean, if it isn't tonight, is LeBron going on a Twitter tirade? Is he? What do you think is happening? Get a deal done if he is drafted by a team other than the Lakers?
What the Lakers should do
that would be
is
chaos.
Move out of the first round, move and get do whatever. They don't have picks in future years. They're going to be like the Knicks. Like, okay, few and far between. So you're going to waste a first round pick on this tonight.
Now, Gino, I'm going to confess, I need you to kind of keep tabs on what goes on tonight at the NBA draft. I'm going to be inaccessible. I'm going to, for the first time, and I can't believe I'm saying this, admitting this, for the first time I'm going to a jazz festival concert.
Very nice,
Yes.
Mike Danger. You are supporting downtown Rochester.
I heard Sheila E. is playing at Parcel 5 tonight. Did you know that?
Is it this tonight? Oh,
I think,
hopefully it doesn't rain tonight.
Yeah, well, that's not the show I'm going to. My daughter actually said, oh, one of my favorite artists is coming to Rochester. And I'm like, really? Who is it? And she said her name, and I'm like, who? And she said her name again. I'm like, I'm not even familiar with who that is. And I listened to her music. I'm like, oh, I get why she's playing the jazz festival. This is really good. It's just kind of like this cool poppy jazz music by this Icelandic singer who I believe you pronounce her name Lauve. But it's spelled like Laffy or Laufey.
You're going to be amazed like what downtown feels like.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to like, wait a second. We're a real city here. This is kinda cool.
I love it. I love when we have nights like that. We certainly saw it in our neighborhood here in the High Falls neighborhood with Garrett Cole pitching a couple of weeks ago at Innovative Field, and tonight that will be where I am at with my daughters tonight, taking that in at Eastman Theater. So, Gino, I'm going to need you to kind of keep tabs on where Bronny ends up if he goes tonight,
all right.
And we'll learn more about who gets drafted and selected where. If you missed Lance Lysowski, he joined us last hour. We have our eyes on Friday night and the NHL draft with the Buffalo Sabres.
Lance, not gambling. No blackjack.
None.
No, I got to work.
That's a disciplined dude. Like, Lance, give me something. Give me a story. Nope. I was in bed before 8 o'clock local time. Well, 8 o'clock local time there is 11 o'clock.
11
here.
o'clock,
Probably his normal bedtime, so I don't blame him for doing that. But, yeah, I also don't blame him for avoiding the tables in Vegas. It's a hard thing to do because they make it so accessible. But, yeah, Lance is there.
Well, he's there by himself, though.
Keeping his ear to the ground. And
yeah, like if you were there with buddies or even a coworker kind of thing, you're doing that stuff. But by yourself?
My brother-in-law and niece were just there a couple of weeks ago. And he came back sour on the Vegas experience. Says too many people. It's too congested. It feels like Times Square. You know how when you go to Times Square, it's nice. It's touristy. It's kind of dirty. It's just touristy, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's what Vegas is when you're walking around the strip, when you're going hotel to hotel or casino to casino. It's touristy. He's like, yeah, no. I'm like, well, what if I say, hey, I know somebody who's got a 50th birthday coming up. Maybe that person wants to spend a weekend with his brothers in Vegas. Okay, all right. I'm just throwing it out there. So a little jealous of Lance. He's enjoying the 114-degree heat in Las Vegas as they get ready for the NHL draft. And if you missed that conversation, we'll get it up for you shortly wherever you get your podcasts. And with Odyssey Rewind, you can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours.
Can I get a ruling on this?
Tell me.
So I haven't told you this. Executive producer and I, anniversary coming up. I'm like, hey, let's do something fun this year. This is a big one coming up.
25.
Not Vegas. Never done this. Picking somewhere that is driving distance, haven't been to. Can I get a ruling on Montreal?
I hear wonderful things.
I've never been there.
I've never been either. I've only been to the airport, and I was a child, so I don't remember much about it, but I've only heard great things.
Were you going over?
We were going to Spain. Yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah, we stopped
So you
over
went
in
from
Montreal.
Chicago to Montreal?
Oh, man. Look, you got to remember something. I grew up in a small town, northern Minnesota. We probably went, it's a blur, and I was probably 8 when we had a layover in Montreal. We probably went Grand Forks, Minneapolis, Montreal, Montreal. We could have gone Grand Forks, Minneapolis, Chicago, Montreal, Spain. I don't know. I just remember being exhausted and being freaked out by all the French Canadian over the loudspeakers.
Yeah.
It felt like I was in a different country because of how French Canadian Montreal actually is. But friends that I know that have gone, love it. Say it's a great city. If you go, you'll have a blast, Gino.
Okay, that's. I'll give you my full report.
All right, my full report on
it. Yeah, like it was either that or Vegas, and no, Montreal.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't. I've got a couple of things still up my sleeve for this summer. But don't worry, I'll be here for training camp, and we're looking forward to another season. But I've got a couple.
Get ready for Gene and Drummy. Gene and Tim Schneider.
I've got a couple of things up my sleeve that might materialize here over the course of the next couple of months. Nothing like no milestone celebrations for us. Not this year, at least.
No, but like every once in a while, like, oh, hey, I'm going to go see Doja Cat in L.A. Oh, you go do that, buddy.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar, Gino.
Yeah, we've got the NBA draft tonight, and if you don't know who are the names at the top here, don't feel bad. We'll try to give you a crash course coming up here. This massive trade between the Knicks and Nets. Oh, and we do have a couple other stories. Something that you will not want to put on your list in terms of a movie that's being produced. Also, some hot uniform talk out of the NHL.
I saw this. All right.
Is it hot? What do you think? We'll get a ruling on it.
All right, we'll get to it and more. A round of shots and last call still to come before 6 o'clock. You can pull up a stool and join us at 585-8664-FAN, 866-4326.
Sports Update.
NBA draft is tonight. The first overall pick belonging to the Atlanta Hawks. Rochester Red Wings look to make it 2 in a row tonight, once again hosting Indianapolis. In the majors, it's the Subway Series tonight. The Mets looking to make it 2 in a row against the Yankees. Here's Mark Vientos.
We've been swinging the bat pretty good. I feel like we're riding the wave. We're sticking to our plan, our approach. We talk about it before games, and feel like we keep doing this, we'll be dangerous.
On the Major League scoreboard, Padres are up on the Nats 4-0 there in the fifth. Finals from this afternoon. Seattle over Tampa Bay 5-2. Philly wins in Detroit 6-2, with Pittsburgh winning in Cincinnati 6-1. Game 1 of a doubleheader sees Atlanta winning in St. Louis by a 6-2 score. Houston has now won 7 in a row. They defeat the Rockies 7-1. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Sports leader, 95.7 FM, and streaming online at thefanrochester.com and the Odyssey app. This is The Fan, Rochester.
Happy Hour continues now with a round of shots in the sports bar.
You know, for the first time, we get the NBA draft spread over 2 nights, but let's be honest. There's just not a lot of buzz around this draft, other than the fact that, well, will the Lakers spend their first-round pick on Bronny James or perhaps trade down? I'm rooting for Cass. I'm rooting for some other team to get in the mix here. Yeah, that would be fun. Let's make LeBron angry.
I want that. Yes.
Atlanta, as we mentioned, has the first pick. Then it's Washington, Houston, San Antonio, and Detroit. Who's going number 1? Well, it's likely one of 2 guys from France. A 6'9" forward named Zachary Rizashar, or Alex Sarr. He's a 7-foot center. Coverage from Brooklyn tonight, 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN.
Yeah, it's not a sexy class, right?
Who cares?
It's Bronny. It's the Bronny show tonight. It's where he goes.
Yeah, like we remember college basketball in Purdue. Remember the big guy Edey?
Yeah.
Likely mid-first round tonight.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I'll give ESPN credit. What I've been kind of observing with the monitor on here in the background, they are talking to the prospects. They are interviewing them, as you would expect. It isn't just about who's going to take Bronny, which for ESPN, that feels like, I mean, let's face it, during the finals, there was more talk being spent on the Lakers head coach and who's going to take Bronny and watching LeBron's reaction to Bronny, instead of talking about what was actually still happening on the court. So as of right now, it looks like their coverage has been more centered on who's actually going to be going tonight.
Yeah, and part of it, like the NFL has the benefit of, hey, here's our free agency, which means trades. And, well, it kind of gets smushed together here in the NHL, and for that matter, the NBA, because stealing the spotlight, this big trade, the Knicks don't have a first-round pick tonight. That's because they had to give it up as part of this big trade. Mikal Bridges going across the bridge from the Nets to the Knicks. New York sending 4 unprotected first-rounders, 25, 27, 29, 31. Protected 25 first-round pick that they got from Milwaukee, couple pick swaps. Brooklyn has a whopping 16 first-round picks between tonight and the year 2031.
Jeez.
Yeah, Bridges originally drafted by the Sixers. He's now the 4th Nova player on the Knicks. He was the Nets' best player by far last year, averaging 19 points a game. He can also play a little defense.
So you got Bridges, you got DiVincenzo, you got Hart, and of course you have Brunson. I mean, and you re-sign OG. Hopefully you're able to get that done. Is that enough to take down Boston in the East? I mean, we liked what we saw. The Knicks were fun.
They wore down. Thibodeau. Like,
oh no,
everything foot. Yeah, his foot to the paddle, kind of like.
I was gonna say, yeah. we might as well just bring back Jay Wright. Just bring Jay Wright out of retirement, and let him try to win a national championship. I mean, an NBA title.
All right, so what will you joke about this? But say we get to Christmas and the Knicks are 500. Tell me what a storyline will be, Mike Danger.
I would think that Thibodeau is a part of this, right? Like that you have to be a certain kind of player. Like, do these players? Do they they're straight up NBA players?
Brunson was so banged up in the playoffs that by the end he definitely was injured, but he was playing hurt.
Yeah.
You're going to need to play hurt. You're going to have to play through.
That's
things.
right.
Yeah.
But there are players in the league who resent the coach that won't let them take a day or won't let them load manage, or will question why they aren't out there in a playoff game. It doesn't feel like these guys feel that way about Thibodeau. Like I think that's the kind of guy he wants. He wants the guy that's going to be tough. And by the way, I don't think it's over. Like, what are they going to do with Julius Randle? They can move on from him and get another player if they really want to. The Knicks are set up. They're in a good spot right now to be even more competitive next year in the East.
But is it enough against Boston, as you mentioned?
Yeah.
Well, we do have the NHL draft coming up on Friday, and news in advance with the NHL switching their uniform provider to Fanatics. We do have some hot uniform talk in the league and a combination, Danger.
Yeah.
I don't believe has ever been done.
Okay.
So the Anaheim Ducks, which the bland black, out with the black. Well, they play in Orange County, and they're going to use that color as their brand moving forward. The new home uniforms not only have the orange sweaters, but orange pants as well. Orange on orange. Can I get a ruling on this?
I spent some time with it. I like the orange pant, white sweater combo for the Ducks. I'm not crazy about the orange on orange, but they are going all in on orange. I don't know if you heard this or not. This could be big if true. The Anaheim Ducks are going all in on orange.
All in.
Yeah,
big
it feels like they've gone all in.
You need another cliche to throw in. Yeah. You had two there.
I was never a big fan of the original Mighty Ducks sweaters when they came into the league, with the cartoon logo.
Purple and teal.
Yeah, the Disney-fied, kind of version of their sweater. And I certainly didn't like the logo with the D logo with the wing in the inside. Yeah. It's going to give me – I'm going to need a little time. I need a little bit more time.
I want to see it on the ice.
I need a little more time on this one. I need a little more time on this. I need a little bit more time on Utah's temporary threads. And, man, Fanatics is taking over everything. They're taking over everything.
Well, they had to roll this out and get people excited because, well, they kind of screwed up baseball, did they not?
Yeah, and I wonder if the NHL has learned from baseball's mistakes here now that they have a little bit of time here before the season starts.
The Rochester Red Wings tonight continue their series against Indy. Remember how they do this? This is the second half of the season already, so the Wings technically have a 1-0 record here. Couple notes here. James Wood has now reached base in the last 34 games he's played in. That is ridiculous. Also, a little bit of history last night. Jen Powell was the home plate umpire. She's the first ever woman to umpire at Innovative Field. She's one of 9 female umpires.
9?
9.
Mm-hmm.
She's
9 times.
Currently in the minor leagues.
Okay. Stop and rewind for a second. I know that the rules in AAA are different. You said they're 1-0. The season resets at the midway point.
Yeah,
so the beginning of the season really doesn't matter. The standings for the first half of the season don't matter.
So every team in the now once again International League is just lumped in. And sorry, I don't know who won the International League first half, but now whoever wins the second half,
those are the two teams.
Those will be the two teams.
Oh, so that's how they determine a champion in the. And it is the International League again, right? They branded it as AAA for what, a season,
right? So supposedly this is to keep everybody's interest. Like, hey, we're only 5. Honestly, does it really?
Now, does the Pacific League still a thing with the International League?
Yes.
So would you get?
You get like a Final Four.
Would you get an International League champion against a Pacific League champion for the Governor's Cup? Is that
the Governor's Cup is International
League only,
like a AAA World Series? I think they play it out in Vegas.
Got it. Okay.
Which we're just not familiar because the Red Wings haven't won a Governor's Cup since 97.
Yeah,
very good.
I remember.
Very good.
Yeah. That's kind of messed up. I don't know how I feel about that. But glad that the Red Wings are off to a blazing 1-0 start here when it matters most.
Finally. We're heading to July. Maybe you're heading to the beach. Maybe you're just excited to get a little barbecue action. It's kind of hard to think about Christmas, is it not? Much less a Christmas movie. Much less something that will not be on your list. I guarantee I'm getting myself worked up here. It's a Hallmark movie.
Oh, who cares?
Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story.
Ugh. Oh, who cares?
Ugh. Now, if Hollywood movies, Danger, take years to produce, no, they crank these out, the Hallmark Network. Production begins this July. It's going to air this Christmas. No word on what the plot is, but it's probably going to be like every other Hallmark movie here. Maybe we get Jay Binkley in this.
I want Chiefsaholic to have a role in this movie because he's such an integral part to Chiefs Kingdom. If Chiefsaholic isn't somehow making a cameo in Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story, then I don't know how accurate this film is actually going to be, how true to life this film actually will be.
Well, I'm going to have my little revenge on Kansas City. We're in like the break. And look, there is a rule that we live by here. Nobody cares about your fantasy team. You really don't. But this is the rare exception, okay? This was a baseball league. Alex Gold, 610 Sports in Kansas City, co-worker of Binkley, puts out
sports.
Talking sport, like puts out a, hey, I'm doing a fantasy baseball league. It's head-to-head. Anybody want in? I'm like, sure. So there's it's called KC Baseball Leagues. 16 teams. 16.
Big.
Your boy here is in first place.
All right, don't choke.
No, I can't. Now, granted, it's June. We got a long, long way to go.
Who do you attribute your success to in this team?
Me.
No, I mean, like, who? Who did you draft? I know it's you, but who did you... Me. Of course it's you. Who did you draft that's carrying your team?
It's the pitching. It's Corbin Burns from the Orioles. I've got Dylan Cease from the Padres. Logan Webb from the Giants. I got the Mariners closer. Now, Kyle Tucker went down. That wasn't good, but we'll get him back at some point.
Yeah, bring this home. Bring home the ship.
Yeah.
You know?
Because honestly, I'm already thinking, how do we bring this home? And I'm telling you and everybody else that's listening, but
I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You're thinking we'll get Binkley on with us. He'll say something about, oh, the Chiefs are the Bills' daddy. And you'll say, yeah, well, guess what, Jay? I took all this money in your Kansas City fantasy baseball league. And he'll be like,
oh, who cares?
No, I'm thinking because this would be, we're working out the details right now with 3 ads, which is exciting, right? We do our Friday football. Imagine a Friday where we come up, and maybe we wait until the Chiefs week, where then I'm making sure I tag everybody. And like, yep, beers are courtesy of everybody in Kansas City today because your boy won. Let's go.
Yeah. And everybody in Kansas City will be like,
oh, who cares?
Oh, I forgot I was in that 16-team league with Alex Gold. Who won it? Some guy in Rochester? Really?
Oh, who cares?
Maybe. Well, it's good that you're in first place. Let's not choke that lead away.
No, I've never wanted to win a league more than this.
16 teams.
It's a little too much. A little too much.
Last call next, 866-4326. Pull up a stool, 585-866-4FAN. We'll set the table for tomorrow afternoon's show here on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to 326, The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments. Since you're a swimming fan, let's head right to the pool. Team USA secured a stunning victory in the men's 4x100-meter medley relay, smashing the world record. Over at the diving venue, Krista Palmer showcased resilience and skill.
I've got some issues with this.
For the women's springboard final. Meanwhile,
this, if you're that's Al Michaels. No, it's not Al Michaels.
That's AI Al Michaels. Al spelled AI. AI Michaels.
AI Michaels.
So, Peacock subscribers, I guess, will get a daily Olympic update, but not voiced by the real Al Michaels, voiced by AI Michaels, and that's what it sounds like. It sounds just like him.
It's scary.
Yeah.
That scares the heck out of me. We're already at this point.
So tomorrow, AI Francesa will be your host here in the Sports Bar. It's been a fun run, Gene. Appreciate it. It's been a fun 8 years, but that ride has come to an end. It's just a matter of time before.
Oh, who cares?
You don't think, like, if they offered us right now, hey, Danger Battaglia, here's $50 and we're going to make AI you. And we do this show, but it's not really us. It's the computer forever and ever and ever.
It's coming. The robots are coming for us, man. We're on X at the Fan Rochester. Peter, don't be messing with my childhood. That old duck logo is clutch. Look, if you like the old Mighty Ducks of Anaheim sweaters with the cartoon logo from the movie, the Disneyfication of the NHL, that's fine. You can like that.
He hit it right in the head. Like, whatever you grew up with, you like.
Right.
That's you always like the throwbacks.
I don't know what it is about the Mighty Ducks. It's just not for me. I never got into it. And I think I might have just missed it by a couple of years. Because I know dudes that are just a few years younger than me. Oh yeah, dude, Mighty Ducks. I'm like, no, man. I liked Youngblood. I liked Slapshot. I like a grittier, less kid-friendly version of a hockey movie or show. I'm watching Shoresy. I'm watching Letterkenny. I'm not really into watching the Mighty Ducks. I'm sorry, Emilio. It's just not for me.
I just found it silly at the time. Like, really, they're going to name a team after a movie. We're going to brand this so that we have Mighty Ducks sequels and everything else. I'm like, I hate this whole idea.
I'll give you Miracle. I know that's Disney as well. I'll give you Miracle. I'll enjoy that. But I can't get into Mighty Ducks. I never got into Mighty Ducks. And that logo might mean something to you. That movie might mean something to you. Great. I think it just missed me by a couple of years. Because once I watched Youngblood and once I watched Slapshot growing up, I was like, all right, that's what a hockey movie's supposed to be. Not this, kind of safe for work.
No, it's not even. Like,
I don't want
Slapshot, Goon.
Goon is another one.
Goon.
Yep. Goon is another one. Shoresy's a lot of fun. Season 3 is out
Mystery
now.
Alaska.
Yeah, for sure. Tomorrow on the show, our last show of the week, as we approach the 4th of July holiday and time of the year where we kind of close up shop for a week or so here in the Sports Bar, clean up behind the scenes, get ready for training camp.
Sorry about that, but once camp hits, your summer may continue. Danger and I, no.
Yeah, Gino will be enjoying his time at his special vacation spot. But before we get to...
Maybe I see the 24-year-old. Maybe I should go over to Nantucket, you think, and go see if Bill and the 24-year-old.
You going to scout?
Maybe.
Yeah, scout.
Maybe.
Dennis Bernstein joins us from Vegas for the NHL draft preview. That's tomorrow. Dennis Bernstein from the fourth period at 3:25. And then our buddy from our buddy Brayton Wilson from WGR and WBEN in Buffalo will stop by to give us his thoughts on some of these prospects in Friday night's NHL draft.
Yeah,
as well.
So we'll get his thoughts. And Kevin Adams also speaks tomorrow out in Vegas, too.
Awesome. We'll hear from him, and we'll recap all of that. Lance Lysowski joined us earlier today from the Buffalo News. Also, PJ Glasser, the host of Send It In on the BetQL Network, gave us his favorite plays for tonight in Major League Baseball. If you missed either of those conversations, find them wherever you download your podcasts, the free to download Odyssey app as well. The JR Sport Brief is next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.